Hello YouTubers, this is the Noobifier. Today I had an opportunity to join Detox and WTFosaurus on the Redacted podcast, a weekly live interactive show about Star Citizen. I'm pushing it up here in case you missed it, and I hope you enjoy.
It is Wednesday, October 11th, 2017. Hope everybody is doing fantastic. I am joined today by Noobifier and Detox. What's going on, guys?
Howdy, folks.
Thank you for having me.
Howdy doody. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Twerkin Board Gamer cannot be here because of Evocati rules, because we do intend to talk about some of the 3.0 leaks and things like that. So a little spoiler warning, if that's something you want to avoid, just a heads up, we are going to be talking about that in the later half of this podcast. And that's once again why Twerkin Board aren't here today. They were both available, but unfortunately they couldn't be here. Yeah, so I guess that's the big news, right? Evocati has 3.0 now.
Finally.
Yeah.
It feels good, man.
Good.
I mean, even though none of us are in Evocati, it's like it's a good landmark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm kind of glad I'm not Evocati though. Like I know how hard they work. I think I love the fact that they worked so well together when they're in Evocati, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't think I'd have the time to dedicate and give it the time it deserves in the Evocati phase.
Well, not only that, it just makes whenever you're streaming a lot harder as well. You got to be careful about what you say. You got to be, because, you know, with the amount of information that's out there, right? It's really easy to be like, oh, I thought this was already whatever. And I, you know, for myself personally, I didn't want to put myself in that position.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, totally
It
agree.
wasn't, and for me, like all I could do, if I was Evocati, it would give me a bit of an advantage, I suppose, that I would be able to see all the game mechanics and write all my scripts and be ready on day one. But I'm a bit of a trooper anyways. I'll be ready. It doesn't matter. It won't hurt my channel at all. So the liability, like you say, of having that information, and you're always second guessing yourself what you're going to say. I don't know anything. So
there you go. Yeah, you can't leak anything if you don't know it.
Right?
Exactly.
Yep. It's true.
So Evocati does have 3.0 now. We do not know when it is going to be going to PTU. We do know that they sort of are going to be doing Evocati in waves, much like they do with every other Evocati, where they release specific things or ask the Evocati to test specific things in the builds. Although I do imagine now that they have the new Delta patcher that they're going to be able to get those builds up a lot quicker and on a more regular basis.
Well, we don't even know if they're able to
absolutely.
use it because we're not Evocati. Or did that?
They've already announced that. Number one, I have screenshots of the new thing, anyways, and that's something I want to talk about later on. But we know everything that was going into 3.0 before Evocati even got it. So before we jump into some of the meat of this podcast, I'm curious to know what you guys think if they're going to continue working on the burn down for 3.0 once it goes into PTU and then to live with both ATV and the posts on the Fridays. And do you think that they're going to do something like this or similar to this once 3.0 is out as a burn down to 3.1? And then as an addition onto that, do you think they should be doing this with Squadron 42 as well?
I feel like
Some loaded
it's
questions
only
in there.
I feel like it's only necessary to PTU to Evocati. Because obviously once it's out there past Evocati, we know we can look at the issue counter. We kind of, most of us or a lot of us,
Right.
more of us know what's going on with the builds, the bugs.
So you think they should continue it until the PTU?
Yes, sorry, until the PTU, until the PTU. Sorry, yeah. So, that's what I think. I just don't. I don't want to keep seeing. Like I liked it, but I can't imagine watching it for every patch and following the burn down thing for every patch.
Right.
Up to live, like it's too much, I think. But yeah, you see what I mean? Like
Yeah, no, I
That's
totally
exactly
understand what you're
I
saying.
was thinking. So for me, anyways, I think a distilled version of the burn down might be nice. So prior to Evocati coming out, like what's stopping 3.0 from being launched? Now it's still a developmental build. It's an Evocati build.
Right.
They shouldn't actually be able to talk to us about anything that they're working on because it would divulge information about NDA stuff. So if they were just to say, we're on track and we've been making progress and it's looking like 2 weeks. It's looking like 1 week.
Why
It's
wouldn't they
looking like-
just do exactly what they were doing when it was in closed testing and Evocati didn't even have it, and just say what bugs are there that they're working on? What is your argument against that? I mean, I think
it's
that's what they're going to be doing.
Sensory overload. I don't know. To me, I watched it because I was interested, but I think the average Joe would probably fast forward through that and just.
I
go into
imagine
Reddit.
most people would fast forward through it if you said that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters if it's an Evocati or if it's enclosed by CIG. I think they should still continue with it. To be honest, I'd rather see the studio reports than the burn down stuff. But
I think
they're
everyone
laborious, right?
I
They
would
take
I would
time,
like
and
to
that was
see the burn
argument.
down stuff on the Friday. I think the burn down is kind of redundant on both ATV and then on the Friday as well. I'd rather see it as a written thing, whereas if you want to read through it, you can. If you don't, it's not a big deal. And then have the studio reports on ATV. Now, I understand why they're not doing that. I know why they're not doing the studio reports. You know, it does take time up from the devs that are working on the bugs and things like that. But yeah, going forward, it would be nice to see that. Now, what about my second half of that question? Would you like to see a burn down report for Squadron 42? Now, knowing what the burn down looks like, there's no leaks into what the missions are or any of that stuff. There's no story stuff in there, or they could even redact that kind of stuff. But in terms of how far they're along with that.
I think I know. Again, none of us are developers. Everyone knows that, and we don't have special information. But being at SidCon last year and expecting to see Squadron 42, and knowing what we know from this entire year, how we've been waiting for subsumption planets, all of the mechanics to come together, and all of that equals 3.0. You could read into that and say that Squadron 42 is a lot closer to being finished, obviously, than last year because the systems are now becoming functional. A tentative release date, is that something that we have already been burnt by that, which is why it doesn't exist? Are you asking for?
I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for the exact same thing that we have for 3.0 with the burn down with Squadron 42 instead of the 3.0 patch.
If it's like 4 months, 6 months away,
does it really
matter? Right.
No, I want a list of the bugs. I want to know what's holding back Squadron 42 from being released.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's all the 3.0 stuff.
Well, I would think not a lot of that stuff isn't the case because a lot of it doesn't have to do with any networking or any of that stuff, right? All the multiplayer stuff is irrelevant for Squadron 42.
Yeah.
Right?
I know what you mean, and you're just basically saying make 2 burn downs. And I would say I would like to see, if that's the case, I like it, but I would like the burn down to be shorter. Something that
once again, it doesn't need to be in a video format. They can just do it on the Friday like they've been doing with a schedule report.
Yeah, schedule
like
report.
the schedule report for Squadron 42 and a schedule report for or burn down, whatever, for Star Citizen.
I don't know. For me, it's not that important for Squadron 42.
I think it is to a lot of people, though. It's not important to me either.
It is, yeah.
But some of the people back the game for Squadron 42 specifically, and so I think that they're entitled to that.
Yeah, definitely agree
their dollar isn't worth any more or less than our dollar.
That's true. But I don't know. I mean, Squadron 42 is, I would say it is tied to the same kind of stuff as obviously 3.0 and the rest of the Star Citizen.
Definitely some of the mechanics for sure. When you talk about subsumption and animations and things like that, of course.
And they usually say, oh, and this is tied to Squadron 42 when they mention things in Burn Down and in the ATVs. They say this affects Squadron 42 also. And
right.
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't think I personally wouldn't want to see any more Burn Down for Squadron 42 separately. I think really it's content and mechanics that is the big thing for Squadron 42.
Right. I mean, once again, I'm not saying I want to see characters. I want to hear what the missions are. I want to know what any of the that kind of stuff is. I want to know what the blockers are, why they haven't released it yet, it gives people an idea. Obviously, it doesn't give you a date, but it does give you an idea of how far away that's going to be. And it does set realistic expectations. And it did the same thing with 3.0, you know? So I think it would be something nice to see. That's all. And I just want to know how you guys felt about it.
the lion's share of what you're looking at or looking for, which is information on Squadron 42, I would be stunned if throughout CitizenCon we didn't get any kind of information with regards to the status,
Right.
or at least something.
Oh, I definitely,
And-
I'm definitely
Yeah.
expecting some Squadron 42 news
Yeah.
during
And
CitizenCon.
believe me, I'm not saying that I'm not interested in it. I'm just saying like maybe I'm sensory overload and burnt out from 2.6.3, and I literally just want to play 3.0, and I've kind of thrown all the other stuff aside.
Mhm.
I agree with you. There are people out there. Everyone has the right to know what the status of the game is, and we technically haven't heard since last year anything
Since
really about
CitizenCon.
Squadron 42. Right.
Yeah.
And so your points are extremely valid, and I agree with you 100%. How the information comes out, the sooner the better, and the more detailed the better, for
Right.
sure, 100%, because that gives us more
Yeah.
clarity and the ability to gauge for ourselves, not just it'll be 2 weeks, it'll be 2 months. To those of us that are interested in not that you have to be smart, but those of us that are into the game and we know what all the words mean. If someone says X blocker means this, I can put that into my own perspective and go, ooh, that's a tough, I don't know how they're going to fix it, right? It's interesting. Some of us track at a greater fidelity. Oh, drinking.
And just so everybody knows, I just pulled up on my calendar now. CitizenCon is literally 2 weeks away on the 27th of this month. So it is on
Multi-stream.
not next Friday, but the one after that. So it's actually it's coming up pretty quick, and it's going to be here before you know it. And just a reminder for those of us that are not going to be going to VerseCon or CitizenCon, we are going to be doing another Redacted Citizen Theater 3000 for that event. So if you want to check that out,
Awesome.
yeah, it's always a good time.
That was 6 hours of my life I'll never get back, but it was
Never.
totally worth it.
Never get that back.
I loved it. I'm kind of bummed, almost bummed that I'm going to CitizenCon. I can't do it. But no,
Yeah.
I am going to enjoy CitizenCon a lot, obviously.
It's a fun time. It is a fun time.
Mm.
Okay, so let's jump into this. Who wants to take the lead on this? Well, I'm gonna pull up the video here for ATV turrets. Yep.
All right. Where is it?
This
Adapted
guy.
to a new
Right, so-
aiming.
Yeah.
Ready all the time,
So-
100%.
Okay, so we're talking about turrets. Let's start with
Yeah.
there. We're talking about turrets because we got a big update on the turret mechanics, which was very well needed. Obviously, everyone is tracking the fact that the turrets in their current iteration, they blow, they're not usable,
Yeah.
and they basically render multi-crew ships to be nothing more than a bunch of seats on something that a pilot flies and fights.
Right, yeah. Turrets were a
So-
hot mess. I
Hot
jumped in a
mess.
turret the other day on stream.
Can't hit anything, and there are people out there that can, but they've wasted a lot of time
Yeah.
overcoming a game mechanic that's not there. So now what we're looking at is I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. I was going to just do the short and skinny of it, but there's a lot of information here that we should probably talk about in order.
Yeah.
So,
they
Go.
wanted-
You carry on. Carry on.
Okay, so they're adapted to a new aiming system to tell which way the turret is turning. They wanted to improve how aiming targets worked, which is decreased to narrow range of free look, and the turrets start to move quicker. The one thing I did like a lot was it's very much like flying a ship with keyboard and mouse. That it's that comfortable feeling where
Yeah.
you basically point your cursor on what you want the guns to shoot at, and then they will follow and track that, which again is very reminiscent of stabilization on a tank. So while the tank is off-road, the gun stays perfectly level, and the gunner's optics are tracking exactly where it is, and they're independent of the vehicle's movement. So that's getting back into this, and that's effective in real life, so naturally it's going to be effective in game. And I think that because they're following on that mechanic, it's going to be seamless and natural. So that was exciting for me.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the
But,
big thing is right now that when you're moving around in the turret, and I know this because I just jumped in it the other day, it takes quite a bit. You have to go right to the look at right at the edge of the screen before the turret actually starts to turn. Your free look, and there's no, like in your ship, you can hit right Alt and M to lock it, so you don't have free look in the pilot seat, but that doesn't work with the turret. And it's kind of surprising that they didn't have those mechanics in there, that it felt like the pilot already. to be honest.
But it also leads. So if you're trying to look this way, it'll actually give you more field of view to the direction that you're going, which is awesome for.
Well, you can turn that off. I turn that
Yeah.
off personally.
But and then there was the another one, which is a deck limit switch, which makes sense because you wouldn't want to accidentally shoot your own ship. And same thing, Army vehicles do the same thing.
Yeah.
The gun will automatically kick away from your nacelles.
So that's not new. And that's something that sort of got under my skin a little bit because they were saying that was something new in 3.0. That's not new. That already exists in 2.6, where you can't shoot your ship already.
But they're talking about how your vision will stay in the right place now with the new system. It'll look like you're aiming, but your guns will kick up away from and won't let you, even if you're aiming below the line of sight of your ship.
Yeah, you can't do that now. I don't know if you've tried it.
But your view would actually stop from when I was trying it.
No.
Okay, I'm in the wrong mode then.
Yeah.
Just goes to show you how much turret sucks. I have never bothered to become good with them.
No, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised as well when Soros told me that's already in. I thought I didn't think that was in, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure Soros is right.
For me, I was expecting to see. Not that I want an auto aim thing, and it kind of sounds like that's something they are putting in, and changes the UI and adding the pips and stuff. These are all things that obviously needed to be changed, but the overall feeling of the turrets didn't really look a whole lot different than what we have now, right? Like there's no sort of stabilization or anything like that. From what I understand, I think they touched on a little bit, but there's no real stabilization for when the ship's doing crazy barrel rolls or maneuvering around or whatever. Where you don't have that kind of control, there's no way for it to like stay locked on to a target to the best of its ability or anything like that. They did say that there was some sort of little assist with that, but we'll have to see how strong or aggressive that actually is.
Exactly. Like I want to see I definitely in this case I'd like to see some sort of assist, some sort of maybe something that the pilot can activate, where it gives you maybe a limited time assist on target. Like let's say you're trying to. Because obviously they're talking about ways that you can coordinate from the pilot to the gunners on the heads-up display screen. They haven't finalized anything yet, but they're looking at adding ways to allow the pilots and to what's the word? Coordinate with the crew, the gunners, certain targets. So maybe there's a way that they can.
So if I was the gunner, if I was the dorsal gunner, let's say on whatever ship, and I said priority, and I engaged something, and the pilot let me have it. And I was trying to aim beyond the deck, then me depressing the weapon would cause the ship to rotate so that I could maintain attitude and maintain fire. But again, that would be temporary.
That also seems like that could create some issues where if you're trying to do that, but the pilot's trying to do something else, who has priority?
No, but that's why I'm saying the pilot would have to release. So in a tank, the commander's power controller overrides the gunner. As soon as he puts his hand on it, the gunner's control is off. So if the pilot was like, I'm about to crash into an asteroid, give me control back, right? But whilst the gunner was doing the shoot, he has control over the attitude of the ship.
Right.
And again, we're talking way the fuck out there, normal stuff that I normally wouldn't cover in a video because it's hearsay.
Right.
But
speculation.
We still kind of need to get this in our hand to see how it feels.
Exactly.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, definitely.
It's hard to tell through video to see how things are actually going to feel as an actual game mechanic being in there.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't see them actually moving the mouse around and whatever, what the pilot's doing and all of this other stuff. Now, the other thing, too, that they talked about was a lot of the UI changes. So something where it would sort of broadcast within the ship to the different positions or different seats where that turret is pointing, or even for the pilot or another person within the ship to designate a target. So everybody knows that, okay, this is the current target that we're going after. This is priority. And then if you can't hit that, then maybe go after something else or...
To me, that was always the point of the third seat in the front of the Connie.
Yeah.
You do have the pilot who is obviously in charge of all the pilot stuff. And then you got a guy who can run shields. But the other guy would technically become redundant as far as I'm concerned. So I always thought that it was really, really cool if that person could look at a target and get, T, V,
Right.
choose targets, and then say designate to whoever.
Yeah,
right?
like a tactical officer in Star
Right.
Trek or something.
Yeah,
And
like
then
be
as
able
a-
to pin different targets and things
Right.
like that.
Top turret, here's the guy I want you to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good idea.
Something else that they talked about that was really cool, and I don't have the doc in front of me, so I apologize if I'm jumping ahead, was the alternating fire. So this is
Chain
something,
fire.
yeah, so this is something that they said they can do with turrets. And do you think that this is going to be something that will then eventually come over to the rest of the ships as well,
100%.
instead of just the turrets?
I should hope so. Yeah.
So,
So-
to anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, if you've seen any Star Wars movie where the X-wing is firing, it can go 1, 2, 3, 4 all at once or alternate pairs. So that's what chain fire. That's what we're talking about. It's a heat management, and it's gives you the ability to fire longer with less effect.
It's more
not-
continuous, right?
Right. It's the opposite of an alpha strike. It's instead of firing everything at once and having everything overheat, it lets you sustain regular fire for smaller targets and those elusive targets.
Yeah, it
So
makes
it's
aiming a lot
definitely-
easier for sure.
Right. It's so necessary as well. It's something that we spoke about in the past, and I'm very, very happy that it's being addressed in 3.0.
But would it kind of take away some of the flavor from certain weapon characteristics though? Like obviously some people like to build their ship certain ways, use certain weapons because of the velocity and the fire rate. How would that affect?
So you have something like a shotgun or an NN13 that fires very slow. What it would effectively let you do is fire 1, 1, 1, 1. So that you're going to take that period of time for the reload or the refresh, and while that one's reloading, this one can fire. So it would effectively double the rate of fire of that one type of weapon, or you can choose to link them both and get what you always do, which is your alpha, and then you're waiting for that sweet spot. Right. So it's more options. At the end of the day, it is just like size 1, size 2, size 3 and different types of weapons. It's just a different fire mode, and it's very necessary. And like I said, I'm super excited to give that a try and see what that actually does.
Yeah, what I was saying though, wouldn't it take away from the characteristics of certain weapons, which are repeaters, ballistics?
It's something that would necessarily have a higher rate of fire would then sort of almost become redundant because you have a higher rate of fire with all of your weapons.
Okay,
Yeah,
but then you could just,
but
as a
obviously-
pilot, change it, right? You just choose to not fire it. If you had
Yeah,
nothing
that's
but
true.
Panthers, you just leave it off. Whereas if I was firing broadswords or something, I could choose to activate it. So again, it comes down to the pilot's skill, the pilot's knowing his gear to know what's appropriate.
Also heat management and all that
Oh my
stuff
God.
as well.
Panther would never overheat if you were firing a chain fire.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
It would make things, especially some of the larger weapons, a lot more effective if you have a bunch of those that you're going to be able to fire at the same time. Now, I don't remember
Exciting.
what other topics were on there about the turret. Was there anything else that I really missed that was important?
Yeah, they're adding heat management and the pipes, and they're basically taking all the items 2.0 and adding them to the turret. So all of that back end stuff that's coming in for the ships is also being applied to the turrets in this patch. Again,
Amazing.
The turrets need so much work that even if they're not perfect, they are finally getting love, and
Yeah.
it's definitely necessary.
And just like everything else, when this comes in, it's not going to be final how it is. They've already talked about a lot of changes they're going to make, and we're also going to be able to tell by playing it and stuff like that. We're going to be able to give feedback to CIG once we have this in our hands with 3.0. So I highly encourage everybody who is going to be in the PTU and even in live to give your feedback on these kind of game mechanics, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, if there's anything else you can kind of think of that you think would help with how the turrets control. We want this to be fun and to be a viable thing for multi-crew ships. Otherwise, there's no point to it.
Well, everyone's turret is going to be filled with AI because they can't put a real breather in there.
Right.
Yeah, it's just super crucial to multi-crew getting this turret gameplay done right. But yeah.
So, if anybody has any
which ones?
questions about 3.0, any of the Evocati stuff, any of this stuff that we're talking about, any of our channels, stuff like that, exclamation point question in chat, feel free to ask. Click on that link and fill out that stuff, and we'll get to those questions at the end of the podcast. Our next section here was Happy Hour, and they finally succumbed to the space whale. It seems like.
Why not?
Yeah, and it looks like it was something coming in game. Now, Chris Roberts had talked about it before in a jump point where they were like, yeah, we want a space whale / Leviathan, and this is not a thing that we're really going, this is something I want to do. It's not a joke. And then he said in all caps, it's not a joke. And then what was funny at the beginning of Happy Hour, they were like, this isn't 100% in, it's not coming in, just like everything else. But at the same time, they had a full design doc for it. They had all kinds of stuff.
Seemed pretty deliberate.
It seemed very deliberate.
That's just something they cooked up while, one of the designers was on the toilet. Space whale.
So what happens when someone shoots up the space whale? Is it going to be like No Man's Sky where a drone comes and shoots you?
No, I don't think so. What they talked about was that it breathes in different atmospheres and things like that in gas giants or nebulas and things like that, that it sort of propels itself through space, sort of the same way that it would swim through water.
Kind of suggests that it has its own like subsumption almost. Space whale subsumption. It must go and do its business, collecting gas from nebulas, etc.
And so they didn't really talk about what it ate or anything like that, but something that I thought of that I think would be really cool is if it ate asteroids and for like some of the sustenance from maybe some of the minerals or whatever. And then if you found one of these, especially as a miner or something like that, and it's leaving behind concentrated poop that you can mine, right? Or has like other properties. It gives more mechanics to this.
Can you imagine the reviews on PC Gamer? It's like, oh yeah, Star Citizen now with 2 times more poop. You can get, for all of you that need to go mine poop, this is your game. Get into your prospectors and go.
That's a good idea. Very good idea, though.
You think
I like
Star
that idea.
Citizen?
Also,
you think Star Citizen space whales were a thing before? Wait until whatever patch this comes out in or whatever. But overall, it looked really cool. I really liked the design that Josh was doing with it. How he based it off of a normal or sort of a blue whale kind of thing, and took a lot of the same mechanics from how a real whale would work, and then sort of made that into a space whale and had these tendrils and stuff for feeling out asteroids and things around them.
I love watching. I love watching the design process, the artistic. Those segments are always very cool because they show you the back end of what you normally don't see.
Mm-hmm. Now,
but I think your idea is awesome. So it's like if it generated some kind of extra lucrative mining resource that you could collect, if it was also dangerous at the same time, that would then open up more gameplay for escorts, like mercenary. Oh, we're getting a whale expedition together to go mine these poop rocks.
Right.
We're going to need some cover because it could turn on us. It could be very dangerous. It could make it that they're very hard to defeat.
And especially considering how big some of these asteroid belts are going to be, they're going to be whole orbits around stars and things like that. It's a great place for them.
I'd love to see something like that. And another thing I thought was maybe you could hunt the whales and they could give you like specific resource or something that you could use in the medical profession. That we know there's going to be like drugs making and things. Maybe the oil from the whale gives you some kind of special property or ingredient to whatever you're making, that kind of thing. It gives a reason to kind of go and hunt them, just so that they're not just these things that flying around. So
it's not like, that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
It gives
Did we just invent a new job for CIG?
No.
The safari tour guide?
No, listen. The Vanduul Kingship, and I'm surprised nobody brought this up, but the Vanduul Kingship has the giant harpoon on it anyways. Right? Why do you think that's on there?
Space whales
confirmed. Yeah.
Right? I don't want to know what am I really base heavy still? All right, let me turn that down. I don't even want to know what the Vanduul is hunting. That's extra scary shit if they're hunting something.
Yeah. It's it would be cool. Also, we didn't really get to see what the scale was going to be. Obviously, they have the little person beside that, but that was not what this scale was going to be. I think it's going to be much, much larger than that.
Like the size of Port Olisar.
I would like it to be bigger than some of the ships, like most of the ships, like much bigger than an Idris, for example.
It would be badass to see that. You'd be like, oh my god.
It would be very cool.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's a really cool.
And you get too close and it just kills you.
Like, yeah, it doesn't have to be like for release. Something they could do post-release. It's not net. You know, it's definitely not a integral to the game, but definitely an awesome potential future profession and something to do in the verse. Something extra. Hunt those babies.
Yeah. Okay, it's time for 3.0 stuff. I'm going to start this off with leaks of 3.0. Now I wrote this in here, and I want to know from you guys, do you guys, like, at this point, is it really leaks? Right? We knew everything that was going into it. We knew, we saw what bugs they had. We know all of the mechanics that are going in. We know of the things that they've pulled out of that weren't going into Evocati. We know I imagine they're not going to pare it down any more than they already have. Right? So is any of this stuff really actually leaks that need to be behind an NDA, need to be behind that Evocati? And if not, then why do you think? Well, let's answer the first question first, I guess. What do you think?
I guess. Well, my response kind of answers the second one in that I guess it's just to protect publicity for the game, is what I imagine.
Right.
And that's pretty much it, in my opinion. I think Evocati is like the final polish, get the real dedicated Star Citizens in to refine, and then we make it public so that, you know, publicity doesn't get hurt by the bugs, because people are stupid and, you know, it's broken, it's buggy.
It's going to be broken anyways when it comes to live. There's going to be things that are going to be buggy anyways.
Yeah.
The frame rate's going to be garbage still. Like the frame rate isn't going to change from what we have now. There's nothing that they put in there that's going to change that. So at this point, you may get some other bugs where there's some clipping on something, or there's some texture issues or something like that. But is that, like, at the end of the day, everybody knows that this game is in early access.
Does it matter?
Does it really matter?
Right.
At this point, for this to be in an Evocati even build.
To answer your question, when Evocati first came out, the one thing that they were trying to prevent is they didn't know what was feature complete, like this patch equals these features. Right. And that to me is legitimate, because if they came out and said, oh, the prospector is going to be in 3.0, that's fine. Let's say that's easy, even though it's not. And then they decide to pull it. Everyone's like super pissed off that, you know, you guys promised that the prospector was going to be there. So if they try some kind of new, I don't know, Mobi-Glass interface, and it turns out to be a total dog, and the new one looks good, so don't think that I'm talking about that. But let's say they add a game mechanic and they test it, and then eventually they scrub it. Well, I think that's what the original point of the NDA was. That is the whole point of the
Evocati. Right. That's how it was explained to us. Exactly.
Right. So then what you're saying is the leaks are the leaks, and to me, I haven't really been hanging out on Reddit, not because it's Reddit's fault, but I don't want to know. I don't want to see the game. I would like to be surprised by it, and that's my own personal choice. If people are all about the leaks, you know, if you're on NDA and you're leaking stuff, that's ballsy as hell, because, you know, I imagine worst case scenario or best case scenario, they'll take your game away, and then worst case scenario, they may pursue you legally. Right. And then it boils down to damage assessment. What did you really leak? Like what you're saying, Source, does it really matter?
We've seen it. They've shown us the outposts. They've shown us surfaces of planets. They've shown us the Mobi-Glass already.
It's all
They've shown us what the new Cutlass looks like. They've shown us the Dragonfly, the Nox. We've seen all of these things. They showed it to us
working, though. They've shown it to us working. And then now the leaks, for example, you have a landing gear clipping through something, or some guy clipping through something. So it's kind of, you have the publicity, the public face of what
we have 3.0 is supposed to be. We have bugs all day, every day in live right now.
Yeah.
Right?
And I agree with you. It doesn't change anything, but I think from the perspective of the game company wanting to put their best foot forward, the NDA is supposed to preserve the aura and the mystery of it being a functional game. And
so
you're
my
correct.
question is that appropriate?
Mm.
Right? Is it appropriate to do that when people are just going to speculate anyways?
Yeah, doesn't matter
when it's not in there, so it's irrelevant. So number one. Number two, they give us all of this information prior to with this build specifically, right? They've given us all of the information that's going into this. We know that what's going in is going in because we followed the burn down report. We followed the schedule report. All of that stuff is going in. So at what point? And they show us during ATVs, showing us during Gamescom,
sneak peeks,
and all of this other stuff that we've seen almost all of this anyways. So when there's this kind of stuff here, is it really necessary? Is all I'm saying. Yes, if we didn't have information of what was going in this and whatever, I still don't agree with the NDA, which is one of the reasons I'm not in it. But I think that it was supposed to be open development. It should continue to be open development. And if people are going to bug them for being an early access open development game, it's going to happen anyways, right? Anyways, I just wanted to know what you guys sort of felt about that.
I'm seeing a lot of people talking about that now. Like it's open development. Do we need NDA? And like you said, you make some good points. I just always see it from CIG's point of view, and they're just trying like preemptive. I feel like they carry
more about gaming journalism, which is all fucking horseshit anyways, right? I was reading anything from any established gaming journalism is just literally hot dog shit, right? So honestly, straight up, like I went through an article yesterday or 2 days ago from Polygon, and the information that they had was all completely wrong and easily verifiable. And it's like, well, why do they care more about these gaming websites that are just going to spew fucking horseshit anyways, instead of the backers who are the ones who put their money into this game? And
or better than that,
that's sort of what gets...
fix the magazine by putting the right information out first so that there's no story.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? If it's the right information, it's not a story. You know what I mean? It's it's a good point.
So they're going to do the speculation, they're going to do all of this stuff, and they're not going to do the research anyways. Then who the fuck cares, right?
Yeah.
If they're doing it for the clicks and for the controversy, then who cares?
And at the end of the day, the funny thing is too, if I'm always like, I see it from my perspective as a backer. I'm invested in the game and I've been following it, and I understand the quirks behind it. The other way of looking at it is from the outsider's perspective, it's a buggy glitch fest. And
okay, wait till the game comes out and buy it. We don't need
exactly.
your
I was
new
just going to say that. So Scam Citizen or whatever, all the haters, those people, when this game becomes what it's supposed to become, they're going to go, wow, I guess it wasn't a scam. And then they're going to join the game at the right time for them. Yeah. Exactly. So you're right. So it's perception. It's perception. And it's like, do I want people to think the game, do we need the entire community to think that the game is awesome right now? Those people that are going to see it for what it is. Right. So those people that are already here and they've already pledged and they love it and they're part of the build, then that's good. Those are the people that we need right now. The other people that don't have the time to figure out exactly what it means and why it's buggy and et cetera, I'm perfectly fine with them sitting on the sidelines and not understanding and playing PUBG or whatever other game it happens to be, on the go right now. And again, I'm not CIG. I'm not a game developer. Maybe I'm missing the mark. Maybe they need as many people as possible. But I personally, as a content creator, I don't think we're there yet. There's no reason to bring people in right at this exact moment, especially if they don't want to be part of the process.
Now, Matt Sherman,
but I mean, it's still financially.
Matt Sherman is in chat.
Isn't there?
I'm gonna talk over you. He says, for what it's worth, at the same time, our own backers repeatedly demonstrated a refusal to do the research or to understand things as stated. How many times with just the lead-up schedule reports for 3.0 were people knowingly ignoring the estimate timeframe disclaimers to treat everything as some irrefutable absolute fact? Not all have. Plenty keep an even keel and wait and see attitude, but plenty do and choose to overreact. And so what I'm saying is, number one, you also have to remember that it's irrelevant. Those people are always going to think that, no matter how closed off you do that. Number two, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You know, a large amount of people who have backed this game don't go onto the forums, don't go onto Reddit, don't go to any of that stuff, and they're not the ones complaining about that stuff. The problem is because the people that do the complaining, and this happens with every gaming community, it doesn't matter what the game is, the complainers always drown out everything else. Even if the game has the greatest ratings in the world and all of this other stuff, the toxicity from the people who complain is always trumps everything else. So you can use that as an excuse, but I would just turn around and say it's not really a valid excuse. You're looking at a small segment of what that community actually is.
It's a waste of effort.
They just happen to be the most vocal. And even by putting the stuff behind the NDAs and doing that, that's not preventing them from doing that. It's not preventing them from saying that. Instead, you're limiting the information going to them. And so it's a lot easier for them to fabricate things and to say, oh, this is what's going on, from partial information instead of full information. That's all I'm saying. Moving forward, watermarks. Now, I didn't think this was anything that was new. I assumed that as soon as they created Evocati, and I've seen this in many games before. I've done beta testing for way back when in
Battlefield
PS2 games.
Yeah,
my roommate used to work for, well, he still does work for Microsoft, and so he would get builds for his Xbox. So I'd see all these games, him play them at home before they ever came out, and they had something similar where it was your gamer tag that sort of moved around. Now, what they're using now is, it looks like some sort of string. Now, this is obviously through a filter, and it's pretty straightforward. This isn't anything new for gaming, especially NDA'd alphas and betas and stuff like that for different, not only video games, but movies, screeners, things like that, to be able to track it down to the player. I feel bad for whoever's thing that is, but that is very much out in the public right now.
Get wrecked, son.
So yeah, I was a little bit surprised about the watermarks, that this was something new. I assumed that this was something they had in there before.
It's definitely a step in the right direction. Like you say, you would have assumed that would have, like, I'm not Evocati, so I didn't know that it didn't exist. The fact that it's now there makes me happy, knowing that if you're that dumb that you're going to put up your image anywhere, you better be on someone else's account. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good thing.
Very interesting. We also saw some of the yellow outposts on the star map interface in what looked like a Hornet, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And so one of the things for me is, we know that they went in and they added even more. You know, they said that there wasn't enough of these outposts all on the planets or on the moons or whatever. Now, this doesn't look like a whole lot. We're looking at one side of yellow, and it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, 7 or 8 different outposts on one side. Now, one of the things that could be a very much possibility, we won't know this, is if they don't show up until you've discovered them. Maybe those are the public ones, and there's ones that might not show up until you discover them, and I think that would be a very cool mechanic.
Yeah, it gives you a reason to do a flyover.
Yeah. It needs to be that one. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyways, I thought it was just something interesting. This isn't nothing new that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's very cool.
But I just thought it was interesting to see that this is sort of the finalized thing, and how many that were actually on there at the moment.
It's nice that there's going to be a reason for people like yourself that stream to actually go, and is like, it's super engaging. It's like, you guys want to go, like, look over that hill to see if there's another outpost, and then you find it and you go in to discover it. So that's the one thing that I mean, I'm in the same boat, but not to the same extreme as you guys as live streamers. There's only so many times you can grab some booze from the booze locker before it becomes completely mind numbing. One thing I was going to say, though, is the number of outposts may or may not be that important, depending on how many players are actually allowed in the instance. So there was a lot of misconception that even on some Facebook groups and stuff like that, it's like, oh, well, 3.0 is going to come out. We're going to have 100 people in the instance, and we're going to be able to team up and have like large scale battles. None of that has been confirmed, and I don't even expect it. I would fully expect still to be 24 and the regular stuff that you can pair up with 1 or 2 people. But if you try to get 10 people in one instance, it's a lot more deliberate. So again, I like the fact that the content is going to be there. It's definitely fun and interesting and that type of stuff, but it's not, I think, critical yet, because we are not going to have the hundreds of people running all over the planets.
Right. I mean, and that's one of the first things I intend on doing, right, is those circumnavigations of the different moons and things like that. So if that means that I'm going to be able to find something on some of those expeditions, I guess, for lack of a better term, then yeah, that's going to be rewarding, and that's going to be cool, and going to make me, even as someone who's not primarily interested in his exploration as the first thing, definitely way more interested in that, because you're going to get rewarded by finding these things.
Yeah, and then you can tell other people where they are.
Yeah, exactly. Share that information. Now, another thing we have here is some of the quantum travel stuff. Not only does it look like it's a new animation, like they had said, it kind of almost looks like entering atmosphere at the beginning, but there also shows there's a cooldown at the end. And this is more of a speculation thing. It's cool that they have a cooldown. That means that you can't, like in 263 now, jump from space to space while trying to lose somebody that's following you. But number 2, do you think that this is based on your quantum engine, right? So your quantum drive, the quality, the size of it, like that. Do you think it's based on the distance that you quantum traveled?
Probably,
or any other.
Yeah, I'd hope it's like the distance, the amount of power you have allocated to your jump drives, your quantum drives as well. So if you are just in permanent travel mode, you can put all your power into the traveling into your quantum drive, so that you don't have as long of a cooldown. But if maybe if you're in a fight and you jump out, you're being attacked by someone and they chase you down, you've put all your power into weapons or shields or something, you're not going to be able to escape on the next jump quick enough. They might chase you down and find you there. But if you kind of put all your power into your engines first, into the quantum drive, you could potentially jump away and then jump away on the second jump again and stay ahead of that person that's chasing you down with weapons, perhaps. Yeah, that's how I'd like it to be.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Just like most other game mechanics within the game, you have to, as the player, you get to pick and choose what posture you take.
To be honest, it's not something I had thought about for them to implement, but I really like the implementation of it.
Well, then it gets into your categories and levels of equipment, right? If you have a Class C jump engine and you've devoted 100% power to regenerating, and it takes 5 minutes to build up, why would I bother? Like, let's say I now have $1 million or $1 million UEC, and I'm going to go get an upgraded jump drive, and it gives me the ability to keep some weapons online and jump out in 3 minutes. So no, definitely. Again, we've always known that the ship itself is your character. Your character is your avatar, but the real grind is about putting trinkets on your ship, right? So that's again, I love the idea of having a reason to upgrade.
Yeah, 100%. The next thing here on our list is the new Delta Patcher. Now, a lot of this is obviously in the back end. That's where all the meat and potatoes are. But we did get a couple screenshots of what it looks like. This is basically, it just looks a little bit cleaner. It has some different little images in the background and stuff like that. But I'm very excited for the Delta Patcher. The whole concept and idea of it. We know how it is going to work. It's like most other games that have their own launcher and how those downloads work. Knowing that we're going to get smaller patches and things like that, that's not going to tie down our entire network, is going to be fantastic.
Do you guys find it's psychological when you open up Steam and a game says downloading patch? Do you think it's like, ooh, or like, like it's in itself, it's exciting because you're like, bug fix, it's progress, it's reassuring, it's all that. So that's another side effect I can think of the Delta Patcher, is that every time you open that game, once, like, even if it's live or not live, it doesn't matter, but you see a little download, you're like, oh, progress is being made. It's reinforcing that that progress is being made and that improvements are awaiting when you click join now.
Yeah, I suppose so. What one thing I want to know, and it's probably been said somewhere, why has it taken so long to get the Delta patcher together again?
The way CryEngine or the way Crysis managed its data, apparently the way that the data was compartmentalized into
and
CAD
how
files.
small they could compartmentalize.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's
I
all good.
see.
Sometimes I'm a little slow. Sometimes Kappa.
That's the only word I can say properly, just so you know.
Yeah, so yeah, and that's all it is, right? So if they make a small change to say some numbers in a database, but that database is within a 2 gig file, they have to send that whole 2 gig file. Now the way that they're doing it now they can send maybe not the individual files. I don't think it goes that small, but I think it's broken down into say 2 megs at a time instead of 2 gigs at a time, which is much more. It may not even be that, maybe 200 megs, right? But it's still a lot more. It'll be significantly faster and less data, which means not only is it faster for you to download on your end, it costs them less as well.
So as a non-game developer and certainly not coding or anything like that, Source, anytime you look at the patch notes, you call up a web, I don't know what you do, but you have a line of text on the left side and a line of text on the right, and it shows you the change detection, those pieces of text. It highlights the differences. So from my perspective as a layman, I could sit back and say, well, Delta Patcher could be that easy, right? Like your computer does an assessment of what is on your computer. It looks at what it should be there. Then calls it up and then sends only those individual files. Right. But what that is a case by case, that's custom intimate support. And that's something I think
the reason they can't do that is because those files are encrypted. So they can't read what's in those, even though they're named, and so they're named the same, or even if they add a new one, they can't tell what's on inside of those. And if it's just the small file inside of that larger file, they can't, the computer can't read that. And so that's where the issue was. So they just needed to break that down into smaller segments.
So then the other way of getting that would be to keep a change log so that you know when the last time each individual cab file was changed, and then it can query that, and then it can change your little cubes.
That's over my head. I don't know how that works.
Exactly. We're getting into... So anyways, suffice to say that from my perspective, it seems like a very simple thing, but the reality is from an encoding perspective, delta patching is... like any other game mechanic that's been brought into this game. Other games do it, but this game does it this way. And that's why it's taken so long.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it does it any different. It's just the way that the engine did it. It just makes it a lot more difficult. That's all.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question. It was just like everybody else has been doing it. Like, yeah. Okay, it's the engine.
And then another thing that sort of came up on the Reddit, I forget who it was that brought it up, was the anti-cheat coming in. Halajalula. That anti-cheat is coming in, and they're going to be able to start testing that. Now, it looks like somebody had found in the lines of code that it does refer to a company called Easy Anti-Cheat. I don't think this is 100% confirmed, but it is like a 99% kind of deal. Now, a lot of people are saying, you know, some people didn't like it, some people did like it. We do have a list of some of the games that use this currently. For CryEngine games, there's only 2, Miscreated and Warface, which is actually made by Crytek themselves. But if you look at all of the games, you have some pretty big games on here. Things like Friday the 13th, For Honor, Detox, you know that one, and you play that quite a bit.
Yeah.
We have
Squad. They got Behavior on here.
We have Ghost Recon, Smite. I'm trying to think of any other really bigger games. Gigantic, 7 Days to Die, Dead by Daylight.
Squad.
So
did you say Squad?
Now, yeah, Squad is in there as well. Now, as someone I know that you played a lot of For Honor, did you ever have any issues with this anti-cheat?
I never ran into cheaters, but I know people who did. So, but if that's what you're asking.
Well, kind of and not really. So did you, I think people aren't worried about, I would rather
how good it is?
I would rather have it leave some cheaters in than ban non-cheaters. And I think a lot of people that were having the issue was that it was banning people from games that weren't
legit players were getting picked up.
Right.
I see. Well, no. And I played a lot of Eternal Crusade. Warhammer 40k Eternal Crusade as well,
Mhm.
which is also supported by it. I never noticed anything. You always get cheaters that do slip through the nets, and in both games they did, but
Right.
not. I didn't notice any problems specifically with the anti-cheat software, the anti-cheat programs.
Right. The only really
But
one
then again, I wasn't really looking.
that I knew about even before this was BattleEye, and that's only through DayZ and Arma and those kind of games. They also do PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds and a couple other games as well.
Is
and
it
I know
Punkbuster, the other one as well?
yeah, there's a couple of them.
Yeah,
I think
Punk Busters
Yeah.
for Battlefield and most EA type games.
and I don't
That
know.
one I used to have problems with.
I don't know what the compatibility is with different games. Like if, for example, BattleEye just may not be compatible with CryEngine. I don't know this, right? Maybe this is they're the only one that is compatible with what they want to do or the kind of things that they want to track or whatever. We don't really know this. This is just going off of somebody found code that lines up with what EAC or Easy Anti-Cheat does and how it looks in code. And so we don't really know a whole lot about it. CIG obviously hasn't talked about it. I don't imagine they're going to talk about it.
No.
It's something that obviously if you know what the anti-cheat software is, then it does make it easier to bypass it, right? Because
But I do have a takeaway.
Things with that.
The takeaway is that it's being considered, that we're at a stage of development right now.
Yeah.
Right.
That it's the right time, like the sooner the better, because then we can basically punch holes in 3.0. Like let's say it comes out, it's not been confirmed that it's part of the game, but let's say it comes out with 3.1. We can start to the companies that make the cheats are obviously that's how they make money. They're going to try to sell stuff, and then the iteration, that process of TikTok, someone makes a cheat, someone fixes it, it can start. And again,
the earlier the better, for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm happy to hear that it's being considered, because that's a huge milestone in game development.
I'm actually even surprised it's coming in. People are seeing traces of it this early. I wasn't expecting to see any cheat come in until beta, to be honest. Because that's sort of when they start to really test that stuff. And so kind of let people use all of their cheat programs and let them think that they're getting away with it during the alpha when it doesn't really matter, as frustrating as it can be for the players. But then once beta comes and they have a database of all of this stuff already, they can wipe that all up and clean all those players out and do all of that stuff.
CIG does need to consider, because even not being able to lock ships, having your head blown off while you're flying, some stowaways there,
teleporting,
you get your ship and so there's so many things that you and I may say is not a big deal because it's a beta, but there are things that people that just literally want to play the game,
right?
Having some guy crash into their ship or camp over them at Grimhex and blow up their ship before they can even get in the game. Let's say that's your first experience playing the game, and your ship's constantly getting blown up. You're like, fuck this game, this is stupid, and like it really. The guy it's daunting enough as it is to learn the mechanics, and then you also have to fight those people that are just bored. So trolls and cheats to me are disruptive to people's enjoyment of the game. So I'm super happy.
Oh no, I definitely am.
This is really good.
I have something to add to it though, and before I do that, Matt Sherman says, big part of the reason why Blizzard won't explain how Warden works is it why give cheaters an inch, and I agree with that.
Right.
And so one of the surprises for me is that CIG doesn't have their own. Right. So this is what one of the issues with this is, as look at how early this was detected. If this is what they end up going with, who knows? They may change it to something else down the line, or this may just be a temporary solution. But if this is what they end up staying with, and this is everything, so then it's like I said, okay, now they know what ones to sort of, there may be holes in this armor that people are going to be able to get around, and now they know what that armor is. They may be more brazen to do that and be able to actually get away with it, right? Whereas if CIG, I imagine it would be hard to implement this and not have people find it, obviously, because they found it without even mentioning it. But if they were doing, and I imagine, having a whole team to do this would be also costly, but doing it themselves or building in something themselves, or do you think that maybe this could be just a temporary measure until they get a team like that or are able to implement their own later on.
Mhm.
I'd like to say one thing, that we started a game on CryEngine and now we call it Lumberyard. I know that doesn't mean as much as it sounds like it does, but maybe this is the framework, the starting point for Star Citizen's bespoke counter cheat. You know what I mean? Maybe the code is going to be so different than what they started out with. Like you start with Punk Buster and you end up with Citizen Buster, right? Something that has no commonality. It iterates
or
so much.
Just like a base framework or something like that. And it's sort of
Right.
built
Yeah.
for this specific application.
Exactly. And there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I mean, if something's already tracking exploits and that type of, cause and effect of what an aimbot looks like and what wall hack looks like, then again, start halfway. Don't start from ground zero.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Totally
don't know. I
agree.
just thought it was interesting that it was in there. I don't really feel one way or the other about any specific anti-cheat program. I've never been false flagged for anything. That I can. There's nothing.
All I can think of is that we had all those cheaters in the past. Obviously with 2.6 Star Marine and things.
Right. Well,
I
and
don't
there
know,
was
maybe
even
something
Lag,
like that.
lag switching.
and it's not even that those things were unfounded. There were literally videos from cheat companies that were showing the tracking of different players through Star Marine levels and things like that, and that even if it was
Right.
only that person using it, that it did exist and that it was a thing. So I think that
Yeah.
was something that CIG sort of saw and was like, okay, well, this is something we need to deal with, and we need to
Yeah.
deal with it immediately. And yeah, like I said, this can evolve alongside the game with it. I'm happy that it's in, and yeah, hopefully,
It works
good.
like
It's
that.
hopefully we don't hear a whole bunch of people getting false positives and things like that.
I was just going to say, it works kind of like a virus scanner, that it's reactionary. You almost have to get a person to write a piece of code that is an exploit and then it be found, and then someone writes a piece of code to counter or neutralize it.
That's how I'd imagine it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Now,
Yeah.
just a reminder, guys, we do have questions at the end of this podcast. If you have any questions for us, ! question in chat, and we will be happy to get to those. We are going to move on to our, what I like to call the random stuff. So just a bunch of different random stuff that's popped up over the last couple days. First things first, Sandy tweeted an image of a new alien creature.
Scary as fuck.
Yeah, it looks really
love
cool. We don't have any scale
really
to
like it.
and she said, enjoy something from out of this world. And I'll pull this
It
up here on
looks-
stream.
It looks like the Striders, is it, from Half-Life 2?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I was
Those-
thinking of.
Yeah.
Or like
those-
a
War of the
building
Worlds,
size.
kind of. Looking, if they were creatures. Something out of a Dali painting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just with really big
Um,
teeth.
I'm
Not
just
a
going to
lot
say
of them,
this is
but just really
why
big.
this is why our speeders have shields. 'Cause-
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Although I don't think shields are going to help you against that.
No.
Yeah, so
Unless
quite
it
quite the
shits
little
acid or
teaser.
something.
It's funny because until you start seeing things like this and the whale, do you you don't ever consider like parts of this game are going to seem like a horror movie. Some parts of this
Yeah.
game are going to be downright scary. I remember the first time I went through not Port Allstar, Cryastro. Not a, you know what I mean? You do the mission, the Darnell missions.
The place.
Oh, right. You're the
Kovalex is what you're
Kovalex.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
Make myself look like a complete noob, but it's
You
honest.
played this game before, right?
I know what I'm talking about. Okay,
You
but
played
so
this game
the
before.
first time,
No bullshit.
the first time
You've
I
played
flew
this
in
game
there,
before.
I may have played it. Yes, I may have several hundred hours logged. But anyways, the first time I went through that mission, obviously it wears off, right? We're not scared of it anymore. It's like whatever. But I always considered, you get out of your Gladius, you park in the back so that no one blows your ship, you float over and you go in, and you're like, what happens if someone else is in there? Am I absolutely going to shit myself? It's like, it's going to just scare the crap out of me. And that's what this is such an adult game. I've got friends at work that are like, I got a 10-year-old who wants to play. I'm like, no, I don't think that's, that's not a good idea. You don't want to buy this for a kid because they're not going to, I'm not saying 10-year-olds are kids. They're little adults. I get it. So whatever. But I don't think it's going to be appealing. And I certainly don't think that the attention span required to learn this game is really going to be the mass population base of 10-year-olds playing Star Citizen. So this beast looks awesome.
It's also
Yeah,
interesting.
and
The more I look
especially-
at it, the smaller I think it's going to be. Because it looks like it has wings.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like it has 4 legs, a tail, and wings. No, 1,
Looks
2.
huge. I don't know.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3,
Nothing-
4, 2 little things that trail on the back, and these wings on the side. And yeah, I think it could be something that's not as big as you would think, but it's hard to tell.
I'm
There's
scared.
no scale.
It's on the screen over there, and I'm scared of it just sitting there.
And especially if like they work these things into the day-night cycles, like certain monsters come out at night.
And
You know,
detox
that
like
would be
this.
even more scary.
I mean, Noobifier, you say you're afraid of it, but if you were to put a picture of this next to a picture of your cat, would you be able to tell the difference?
At night, no. In
Yeah,
the
come
dark,
on.
no.
It's very true.
Your cat's not nearby, is it?
I know. No, he's out of the room.
Okay.
That's why I built the room, to keep those little bastards off stream.
I was gonna get him to show him on stream.
I could go collect him.
If you want.
Yeah.
If you want.
Bareback?
We're gonna move on to the next thing
Demonstration.
while you're doing that. So Noobifier has one of those, yet he's afraid of it. That's what I didn't get.
He lives with it.
Vandal ships. The Vandal Void. They did a
yeah.
detail pass on this. I wonder how far along they are with this. They're just showing us the external, but I wonder if the interior is done and all of that stuff.
I actually don't know too much about this ship.
Yeah, I
Do
used
you
to know a
much?
lot.
What is it?
more
A
about
bomber or
these.
something?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember. I think it's a bomber.
I think it is. Void would make me think it's voiding its bowels on top of other things. So maybe it is a bomber.
Yeah, I do know.
Yes.
Yeah. Once again, with the last image, guys, with this scale, I don't think it's going to be very big, but it is still hard to tell with that because we don't have a banana for scale.
Yes.
So
I don't know. It does look
if we had something like that, then we would be able to check it. With this ship, however,
Yeah.
this ship is going to be fairly large. I think this is, if I recall,
it looks.
this is bigger than a Starfarer, I think.
Oh, really?
Oh, there you go. There's his,
God.
right? Look at that.
There it
thing.
is. The
That weird.
kill
Oh
me.
my God.
Kill me.
Yeah.
Kill me.
Look at that thing. No, those are cool cats. Sphinx cats are very cool. But
So yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Vandal Pass. It's cool to see that they're showing us some of this stuff. I wasn't expecting them to show this much detail. Normally, they would show us like a zoom in, like they did with the creature of like one of the engines or like a wing or something.
Will they sell it? Will it be?
I don't
hope
think
not.
so.
But will it?
What do you think?
I'm
Noob?
kind of on this.
The Vandal
Thanks,
Void.
thanks for blindsiding me, man.
Yeah. No, the Vandal Void. Do you
Yeah,
think
what-
it's going to be something that
Void
they're gonna
Bomber?
sell? Yeah.
I would, yeah. If it can make money for the game, sure. Why not?
I'm
Sell
I'm
a
kind of in the
dozen of
same
them.
boat as Captain Richard on this, though. That everyone shouldn't be flying around with Vandal ships.
So
They
it won't be a real Vandal ship. It'll be a Speria. It'll be a reproduction of, and then it'll fit in lore, and it'll be super expensive, and it'll suck for its weight, and it'll, it's fine.
You mean it's
If we
not
have
going to
to
punch
play
above
this
its
ship.
weight class?
Huh. Funny you should say that. Everything fucking punches over its weight class.
I know.
Everything.
Then wait, does everything
Anyways.
punch over its weight class or does it not? And it's just some bullshit marketing.
Yes. So as far as I'm concerned, give me a driller. Give me the ability to spend $10,000 on a driller. I don't care. Obviously, being a little facetious here, but any smaller Vandal ship, it's going to just, whether it's called a Vandal ship or it's called an Aegis ship, it's going to have, physical properties. It's going to fly a particular way. It's going to, have a certain advantage, disadvantage, and it's all good. It's all good gameplay. Give us the ability to choose however we want to play and sell me a concept Void Bomber.
Okay.
Yeah. Now this next thing is something I put in there because myself personally, I wanted to switch out my ships. Once all the Drake ships are available, they've been available now. And so I had Super Hornets. Not only on my, I have 2 accounts, not only my main account, but my second account. And so for me, knowing that the Cutlass is going up in price, that has been confirmed already, that after 3.0 drops, I don't know whether that's to PTU or to live, but the Cutlass will be going up in price from $100 to we don't know what yet. So I recently melted a Super Hornet package that I had, and I'll explain what I did on my second account. Okay, so I had an Aurora with 3 months insurance on a Star Citizen only game package. No Squadron 42 or anything, because I only need 1 copy of it. I melted that for $185, which is what the total of that ship was worth. I managed to buy 2 X1 bikes, upgraded one of them to a Cutlass. I'll change another one over to a Dragonfly when it's available, right? And then and I didn't have a game package with either of those, obviously with the X1s. And then I took the remaining $45 and picked up another 3-month insurance on the Aurora game package, which to me, in my opinion, I think obviously that's the way I want to play. Not everybody wants a Cutlass or anything like that, but I just wanted to put that sort of just remind everybody that ship is going up in price. So if that's something that you want, you might want to look into getting that now before it goes up in price.
And it's no starter by any, but at its price point, it's not a starter. But for those of us that are seasoned, we tend to say, oh, go, brand new citizen, go get yourself a Cutlass. It's awesome because like $100. But, yeah, it's only after years. No, I know, but I'm just saying it's only after years of being accustomed to and being slammed into the idea that $1,000 ship is perfectly, perfectly fine. $100 is super cheap. Just please, if you guys remember, if you're bringing new citizens in, don't ever say that $100 ship is cheap, because that's going to totally set them wrong.
It's unnecessary.
Good value.
Once again, value. I should have prefaced this with this like I normally do. All you need is that Aurora package, and that's it. You don't need anything else. The reason I did it was I already had the Super Hornet. I didn't want the Super Hornet anymore. And me getting 3 ships, 2 of them with LTI and a game package still, far outweighed me having a Super Hornet. That's all. The Super Hornet might change later on and it might be better. That doesn't matter to me personally. I just wanted to put out that thing and just let everybody know that the Cutlass is going up in price.
Now's the time if you want one. Not that it's cheap or that it's a good value, but if you were going to buy one anyways.
Than it's going to be.
Right.
Is the best way of putting it. And I wanted to use that to try and segue as smoothly as possible. And even though we didn't really do that, segue as smoothly as possible into how much you think that the Cutlass is going to go up in price. We've talked about it before on the podcast, but not with you guys. So I wanted to know.
I think about 25.
Okay.
25 bucks. 50 bucks at most.
I would be, so 20, minimum of 20. So Cutlass Black 120. And I was originally thinking 150 because it hits above its price point. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But is it comparable now to the type of gameplay you'd get out of a Freelancer? You know what I mean? Like a Max?
Yes.
So it's become beefy. So I would expect the price to be beefy, and I would not be surprised or shocked to see it at 150. I'm hoping for 120. And that goes across the board. So the 125 goes up by 20 and the 150 goes up by 20, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the blue.
I'm 100% expecting it to go up by 50. So the Cutlass Black going to 150, the Cutlass Red going to 175, and the Cutlass Blue going to 200.
Any more than 50, I'll be disappointed.
I don't think they could really justify more than that. But I don't think they're going to go on. I don't think they're going to do 25. If they do, I'll be pleasantly surprised. But I just basing off of how they sort of price some of their other stuff and just sort of how I feel about it being around the project for as long as I can.
And I've been surprised in the past. That Hoplite, I was expecting the Hoplite to come out at a premium price, and it was $225 instead of $250. You know, again, good value, cheap ship. But bang for buck compared to the other ships, and it's not a good value or cheap. It's just I'm comparing it to the Harbinger and that type of thing, the Warlock. Or anyways, those ships, 225 down is good. I was happy. So if they come out with even a $10 premium for the Cutlass, congratulations, CIG. That's a really, really great idea.
Now,
Yeah.
moving forward is more into speculation territory because I don't really have any way to back this up, but there were a lot of people talking about it. This is the potential model of the Saber Raven. Now, I'm not sure if this I had read somewhere that somebody said that these were in the game files before, and somebody said that they had pulled them from the game files. Someone else said that this was something that was fan made. It doesn't. I can't really tell.
You don't know. It looks like
I can say one
like
thing
a more
about the
armored
design.
saber.
The one thing that doesn't make sense to me, and this could be made by CIG still, is the fact that the wingtips on the new little side wings actually go above where the turret would shoot. I mean, there's no reason that they couldn't have just cut those off so it could at least shoot horizontal or all the way across, with the exception of where the two winglets in the back.
I assume that was maybe landing mode or something.
Yeah. But yeah,
Let's just say that I'm not going to be doing a video on this until it comes out. Because
no, I don't expect anybody. I don't know
bullshit
enough about it, but I thought it looked cool, and we do know that there's going to be like a super saber at some point.
The Saber Raven. Whatever that means.
So the funny thing is to think about this is, you remember the whole point of the Saber? It was on some obscure whiteboard in the background on one of Sandy's pictures, and everyone zoomed in and they saw it on the list, and then it became a thing because it, in one of the Spectrum videos, it was in a workflow, that Saber Raven. So my question is, and again,
there's a bunch of other ships in that had since been confirmed as well
that are true, right?
Like
so, but the funny thing, I think the funniest thing for me would be to find out in the future that the Saber Raven was just something that someone doodled on the board, and then because of the fandom and because of the push, that we actually made it like, oh fuck it, let's make a Saber Raven. That's a great idea.
Maybe.
And again, we'll never know.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything else on that list was legitimate, so I don't imagine. And it's been confirmed.
Let me dream, Source.
I don't think they need another Saber. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, not at this point, anyways. Not more.
No.
But hey, let's talk about a ship that it's a game changer. Kappa. We're not actually going to talk about it.
We could talk about the Carrack.
It
shoots outposts.
No, that was the one last thing I wanted to touch on, is the Carrack has gone into production. I know a lot of people are really excited for that ship, and so that means a lot to people who...
Yeah, interior metrics done, initial texture on the outside, which means that they have a higher than average level of idea of what the outside is going to look like. CIG, please, for the love of Christ, give me a picture of my baby.
And once again, guys,
damn all these Carrack lovers.
We only have a handful of questions in here, so if you have any questions, !question in chat. We're going to be jumping over into questions right now. And the first one is from Maravrin, and he says, will there be a version of heavy armor that has powered options, i.e. you can add a power cell to reduce fatigue from movement, add a small personal shield, etc. Basically a Halo suit. Obviously, these suits would have to be super expensive to be balanced, but I have some friends who don't want to fly ships instead, but focus on marine FPS gameplay. This way, players could work for armor in the same way as people work for ships. So this is kind of a two-part answer. Yes, there's going to be Titan suits. We talked about this actually during the Lost podcast. And number two, even without Titan suits and all this other stuff, your friend is still going to be able to do all of that stuff as an FPS game and be able to work for armor and different weapons and things like that. But yeah, they want to do the Titan suits, and we know that that's going to be a thing. Revolution.
We don't know how big yet, though.
Yeah, no idea.
I have nothing else to add over that. You did a very good job, Source.
Revolution 212 says, what is the plan for construction in Star Citizen, building bases and satellites, etc.? Well, at first they had said that they don't want to do that. Now they have hinted that they are going to look into doing that stuff now that we have procedural planets and basically not infinite. Infinite is not the word. Indefinite is probably a better word. Indefinite building space on moons and planets, where you'll never run out of land for the amount of players ever.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that they're looking into. as of right now, it's not a solid mechanic that they want to do, and we don't even know if it's going to come with the launch of the game or if it's something that they'll look into later on. It's something I think a lot of people would really like to see. For sure, I want to be able to build my own satellites and build my own org base or whatever on Moon or a planet or something. But I don't know if that's going to be an actual thing that we're going to be able to do anytime in the near future.
The other option on that is what they did in Grand Theft Auto, which is that you can own an apartment. Right. Which is kind of a cross between full-on like Minecraft building stuff and having nothing.
Well, we know that that's already thing, right, with hangars.
They were like they're like a hangars, exactly, like instances that you can bring people back to, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that in that regard.
I'm wondering how they're going to do that as well. Like, for example, the hangars right now, all of them with the exception of one, are on a planet surface, right? Or a moon surface even, I'm sure you could get away with. And there's obviously a lot of space now. So do you think that people are going to, instead of them being instanced, they won't need to be instanced now? And so that's number one. And then number two would be the same thing with the asteroid hangars. Now that we have giant asteroid belts that are going to be, you know, there's going to be lots of space for these actual asteroid hangars to take place in. Do you think that these are actually going to be physical places in the game later on, or because I feel like they have the potential to be? I just don't know if it's something that they would be able to do effectively or not.
So it depends on what happens when you open the door, right? So we're in a game that is not supposed to have any cutscenes or animations. So to answer, if I were to know that and know that you open the door and you're in space without a cutscene, then that should answer your question for you.
No. Maybe you missed what I said. Okay, so what I'm saying, instead of it being instanced, so instead of everybody, like say 100 people all going to the same hangar, but when they go in, they go into different things.
You're talking about discrete hangars that are legitimate places, like physicalized in the universe.
That individually physicalized.
Not like how they're proposing to do with Grimhex, how there's 8 doors and you can just poop out of door 1 and some other guy poop out of door 1 in 5 minutes.
Right, and for those areas, it makes more sense because they're public areas. But for the private areas...
So I drive by a place and I know that that's Soros's house. And I'm driving up by another place and that's Torque's house. That's right. That would be awesome, but mind-blowing at the same time because I don't know how... like I don't know how that would... That would be ridiculous to try to track. Because there's millions, there's 2 million, citizens right now, plus all the AI and everything like that.
You don't need to track every single citizen, though.
No, I know, but if
think of the planet surface of one planet, right? Like
it'd just be littered. It would be littered.
No, it wouldn't. Are you insane? How many people live on the planet Earth in real life?
Billions.
Billions.
But people mostly live together, don't they, right? So you'd have like hangars.
What is it? 7 billion people on the planet Earth, right? And we still have plenty of space. Look at Canada. That's a perfect example, right? Obviously, some places are more crowded than others.
What I'm saying is from a game, that's real life. Right. And I'm saying you have an address where you live and I have an address where I live.
Right.
And for a game to be able to replicate me leaving my house and going to the exact place that you live, knocking on your door and coming into your house, to me, that's...
How do they do the outposts then?
The thing is, though, the outpost is much... You don't own it. It's a lot less complex.
So is that the only difference, though, is the fact that a player doesn't own it?
Well, don't forget, too, right now, there will always be... I know that in the future, the plan is to get everyone to be able to see everybody. But the thing is, I don't think that we're ever going to get to a point where your instance will let everyone be in one place. It would just be too congested in certain places.
Right.
So I believe in the future, obviously right now, we have 24 per instance. There's 400, however many versions of that one house. And just because you own it in one instance doesn't mean that I don't own it in another. But I guess it really comes down to what the overall threshold of the final build of the game comes down to, right? If that discrete building can be owned by you in all versions, potential versions of the game. Right. And to me, that level of ownership
would be too cluttered?
Crazy.
I don't think it's technically easy to do. But in terms of things being overly cluttered or feeling like whatever, I don't think that would be very valid when you look at how big, not only all of the moons that you have, then you have to look at all the planets when we get all of the planets. And I think there's going to be way more than enough space for it to actually happen.
Physical space, for sure.
Physical, but
most people are going to want to live in a city, right? Most people are going to do what people naturally do. Well, I don't want to live in a shack in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I mean, when
can't be like this epic pirate that lives in a hovel in the desert.
But you also have to remember, as of right now, we don't have the ability to quantum travel places where it takes 2 seconds to get to Mars. You know,
so we also don't know really how hangars are going to work.
Right, and that's another thing entirely.
Some of us have 100. If they have 100 ships, you have 100 hangars. Does that mean I get to pop 100 hangars into the universe? I can't see that happening either.
I don't see that happening either.
So again, great question. It spurred a ton of really good conversation, but again, I don't think we're
right. And like I said, that's all I'm looking for. I'm just looking for speculation. I know some people are going to say, "Oh, what you're saying is stupid," and some people are going to agree with me and whatever. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see.
Maybe it could be like super exclusive. Maybe they're exclusive hangars that are open world and everybody can visit. Maybe
that's something
they require a lot of money. They are exclusive. You have to unlock certain achievements or spend a certain amount of money, and they are open world. And everybody can see them and visit them,
or something like that.
Org hangars, or you rent them. Maybe rent them for a certain X amount of time in the game. It costs a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
and then when that rents up, somebody else can then rent it. And
then you can charge admission to come see Saurus's hangar.
Yeah.
Okay. Is
that a euphemism for something?
Nope. Did you have a response to that?
Sorry.
He wasn't listening. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question. Nerdy100 says, you're saying 24 players in 3.0, which they say may increase, will 100% increase. When Star Citizen is complete in a couple of years, how many players do we expect to be able to interact with each other at the same time? I.e., how many players can we expect to play in the same zone at the same time when Star Citizen is finished? Right now, that's the big unknown. That is the biggest. That is the biggest make or break thing in Star Citizen. I think that is the only thing that can make this game fail, and it is very much a potential, and it is very much a possibility. If they can't do it, where they can handle hundreds, if not thousands, of players together that can all interact with each other, then a lot of the things that they want to do and a lot of the things that they have set out to do won't be able to happen. And while Squadron 42 may be an awesome single player game, it would really inhibit what Star Citizen is as a game. It doesn't matter if they have the 64-bit and fully explorable planets and subsumption and all of this other stuff. If you're not able to play, do all of these big capital ship battles and all this other stuff that they set out to do. So that's really the big question. There's nothing I can think of that they could add that would even me saying, even if they came out and said, oh, we want to try and put every person has their own individual city or something like that. I think that is still easier than what they need to do with the netcode. And I think it's more, I think it affects the game obviously way more than any other mechanic does or anything else they want to do in the end.
Does.
If we never got planetary landing, okay, it wouldn't be as cool, but it's still not as important as the netcode. If we didn't get proper subsumption or any of this stuff, the netcode is the hands down the most important thing to this game, and that is something that's still up in the air. We don't really know what's going on with it. We don't know if it's going to be an instance thing. That's what they've talked about previously, but so many things have changed since when they talked about the netcode last. Look at all of the new stuff that we
2014.
have. Right, we're looking at,
I don't know where we stand.
Full integration with Amazon and all of this other stuff that they're doing, and so it's really hard to say where they're standing in one place or another until they really start to talk about it and really start to break it down for us, or at least show us what. So we know that
the intent is as much as possible, because that's the recipe of the entire game. But the reality is, just like
what is that number?
What does that actually mean? Exactly. So, example, the first time we saw planets, they're like, oh, this is something we're looking at. And I'm like, fuck, that's awesome. I wasn't even expecting that. And, now I want it. It's the same thing. Subsumption. I didn't even know I wanted subsumption until I figured out what it was. And I'm like, that would be awesome. Right. And again, I feel that we're at a point now, not necessarily that we're out of feature creep, but that we've kind of reached that parity where the feature creep, like even the game developer knows that what they have is more than monumental, and adding more stuff might be detrimental to the project. That's my perception of it. And, you guys are more than free to have your own opinion on it. But I feel that they have a very solid idea of what it means, what we're going to get at launch, or what it means to have a launched game. And then, like you say, you got all these future plans. Are we going to get apartments on launch? No, who cares? Whatever. It might be something 2 years down the road. It's like, here you go. Now you've got your Grand Theft Auto in Star Citizen, and you can have your own apartment. So it's still exciting.
Our next question is from. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's just I'm for the 100. They are aiming for the 100 players, right? For the instances, in one seamless experience at a time. That if they hit that, I would be happy, but I would hope for more in the future if they hit that sort of 100 on release. But I'm kind of aiming low, so I'm not disappointed, because I feel like you said, Source, this is make or break for Star Citizen. How many people we can have seamlessly in one. And I'm aiming low for my expectations, and because like one of the reasons I won't touch Elite Dangerous is because people can click a switch and they go to single player mode like that. Yeah. That makes no sense to me. Like, why would you play that? Like, I can see its merits of the game, but that little button where people can go single player mode, no. There has to always be that risk of the unknown, and that has to be there in Star Citizen. And I think 100 people is a good amount initially for that kind of feel and gameplay and that universe scope. But I would hope as people's hardware improves and the software and the hardware moves forward in the future, that maybe they'd start expanding on that. But aiming for 100 for release, perfect for me.
I think 100 is way too low. You have ships that will be 100 people.
So I have a counter to that, Source. Bubble tea. You've got all those little balls in a grid pattern. So let's say every single instance was a bubble in bubble tea, and you could see the other bubble, and you could see what was going on in it, but you weren't in that bubble, and you could seamlessly, you know what I mean, the load sharing of the server. I think that was the original intent on how it was envisioned of working, that everyone would, like you say, an Idris might be its own instance, or it might be 4 instances that are all moving at the same time, and you can see through and shoot through and everything like that. It would all end up being seamless. So at the end of the day, the actual geometry of the instance itself, let's say every single person's in an instance, their own instance, but that I can engage with all the other instances.
Maybe I wasn't clear then. So what I'm thinking of when I think of an instance isn't maybe necessarily what it would mean on a technical term, but I'm thinking of more of a physicalized term. Okay. Right? So an instance would be as far as I can see and everything around that. So if they can do it in that thing where the instances are 100 meters by 100 meters, then sure, then
it's seamless anyways. But it's you as the end player, so you as the end player are oblivious to the mechanism. Right. You standing will see everything rendered the way that you should, and you're oblivious to the however many of instances.
Yeah, that's irrelevant to me whether it's
as the player.
The area that 100%. I can see is 20 instances, or if it's 1 instance. I am imagining that as just 1 instance that I can see all of it. Right. And
we already know that
that's how I'm trying to explain it. So how far
the view distance.
Right. So
the view distance.
The problem with this model that comes in when you're talking to somebody in area chat and they say, "Hey dude, I'm at X Rock." And then you go to X Rock and then they're not there. That's the problem with that technology. If otherwise everything is seamless, and yes, people are moving in and out the instance seamlessly, you're not interacting with anyone specifically, but if a friend logs in and they didn't log into your instance because the system didn't put them in the same.
And there was
they say, I'm at the G-Lock bar, and you go there and they're not there. You then have to switch to their shard, or whatever it's called. From what I know, it is sharding, because they did it in Age of Conan and it sucked. I didn't like it, the way they did it, because it wasn't seamless. You literally had to go, I'm going to join instance 2, and then your character would load back into the game.
Yeah, just like doing dungeons in WoW or something.
Yeah, and then you'd see your friend there, and I'll be like, "Wow, this completely kills the immersion for me." The immersion. So yeah, like that's where the problem comes with that technology.
Right.
Right, and it also hurts bounty hunting. So if I'm supposed to be hunting a person, then the only way that I can see it happening is if it is like you're talking about, where there's instances and shards. Then you might say, well, that there's one way to mitigate that, and it's everyone that's on your friends list will get a priority to be in the same shard as you automatically, so that you can always work with your friends. And then there's a chance there are players that are working in exactly the same place as you all the time, and you never ever see them. Like you're oblivious of their awareness. Like is that fine or is it not? Obviously, it's suboptimal, but at the same time, you have to preserve congestion. So if you were to put 100,000 people into our corp, what the hell would that look like?
Well, and then the question is to that. Okay, so then say you have a government org, for lack of a better term, and a pirate org. Okay, and normally those two orgs are too big to see each other because they need to see all their friends and their org mates and stuff. Right. And then all of a sudden you have one of them hunting the other one. Now who can you see and who can you not see?
Right, it turns into a shit show. Yeah.
Right,
and that really begs the question of how is this shit going to work?
Exactly.
It really does. Yeah.
No, it does. And it's going to be something that's going to be very interesting to see.
The bounty hunter one can be rectified because you take that mission for that bounty on the terminal, and then the system says, "Oh, you've got the mission to get this guy. We're going to put you in the same instance every time as long as you have that mission."
But then you want to go with the rest of your org to go do that, and he wants to go with the rest of his org. And what if it's only 50 players per instance? Or 100 players or 1,000.
This is why I'm not a game developer, because I can't wrap my brain around how that's going to work. And CIG, if you already know how it's going to work, awesome.
Awesome. Our next question is from Genesis.
I really hope so.
And he says, due to the currency being in the game in credit form, will pirates have a different form of currency due to the game government being able to freeze accounts and assets that are electronic, much like how some star systems in Star Wars will not trust to utilize Republic credits? We don't know yet. As of right now, that's not the case. I imagine that they will choose fun over realism for something like this, where it's like, yes, a lot of it is trackable, and you could say that. I don't think that's going to be the case with that. But then again, we could just have a different currency for that. I don't know how difficult or how much more work that would put on the devs to do that. I feel like the easier route doesn't really break immersion, doesn't really do it. It just seems like redundant work to bring in more currencies because of that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and then you get into exchange rates and all kinds of other crap like we have to deal with in real life. So is that something that someone wants in the game? I like your idea of a currency that is just, it's the accepted norm and it's the game currency. It's fine. And then there's also the argument of we deal with it on a daily basis between, British pounds and US dollars and Canadian dollars. And we just go to the terminal and we figure out how much it's going to cost, and it's part of our day-to-day life. So it could technically be seen as more realistic. You got the Banu. Do they have their own currency or do they use UEC? So I know I didn't answer the question. I just expanded on it.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I don't see them creating another currency for that. Pirate gold, maybe. Some doubloons.
It depends on how much fun it becomes.
Yeah. And how much it adds to the game and not takes away from the game. Our next question is from Blitzedge, saying, will subscribers be able to play in the Evocati? Not unless you're in the Evocati. Are you able to play in the Evocati? Subscribers sometimes do get access to earlier PTU builds, but they announce when that is, and that's not all of the time. So if you're not a subscriber already, I would suggest holding off until if and when they announce that. Because it doesn't matter when you subscribe. As soon as you become a subscriber, then you'll have access to that, if they allow that happening. They did announce that all concierge members, so anyone who's spent $1,000 or higher, will be in the first wave of PTU.
Woo!
Finally.
Maravrin says, in the Gamescom demo, we saw people swapping inventory items in a menu. In the future, will they change this to only occur at lockers' weapon racks, i.e. will armors and weapons you own be stored in game world locations or just a menu selection? I believe it's going to be
stored.
Yeah, you're going to have lockers and things like that. As of right now, they're just doing it for ease of use.
Yeah, placeholder.
Insta
Yeah.
Shinobi says, because Face over IP uses the webcam, how would this affect Twitch streamers? Wouldn't we need a video mixer to split the cam output between the game and our streaming software? Or you could get 2 cameras, or you could not use it, or you
could not use it. That was what I was going to say. Is like, I mean, it's beautiful. It's a cool idea, but at the end of the day, from my perspective, anything that doesn't make me a better player, even if it adds immersion, is going to end up being frustrating.
Yeah.
So, for example, track IR, I like track IR because it makes me a better player, and it's very easy to set it and forget it. But this game mechanic where I'm in my broadcasting, is my face doing stupid shit because I'm chewing gum, or if I'm looking this way to talk to someone who's in my real life, does that screw with the character? Is, you know, there's just so much. It's so super cool when you first look at it, and I think what's going to end up happening is most people mute their face and it goes by the wayside. And I'm not trying to sound negative or, you know, steal people's thunder or say that what you're building isn't what we want. It is great, once again, to have options. I just can't see myself. I think it's going to be a gauge, and then I'm going to maybe turn it off.
Right.
Yeah, I think for you, that definitely there'll be other people that really can't wait for it, like role players and
of course
serious orgs that want to do their in-game conferences
the
and
other
meetings.
thing too is noob, you do YouTube, so it's not like you're constantly using your camera for streaming anyways. But my thing would be, and you see this a lot with some of the other streamers, not myself but other streamers, where they play a character, and so maybe it is going to be a thing where you're also going to have in Spectrum or something like that what your loadout looks like, and you're able to capture your character's face, and you could use that instead of a webcam. Right, and throw that in the corner of your stream. I would not be surprised at all if we're going to be able to do that. Right, so you're able to be your character in the corner of your screen instead of your
kind of like what Oxford does then with the panda, the framework.
Just with your character.
Exactly that.
Okay, that definitely gives options.
And some people will 100% do that or find a way to do that. Pappy says, what are your thoughts on the Elite Vanguard cockpit and the reduction of view with the pipes and upper multifunction displays? Do you think it fits a heavy fighter that has forward firepower? I don't personally care about the Vanguard. I don't know anything about it. So I don't really have an answer.
I melted mine. So as far as I read into it, they're making the cockpit of the Vanguard look more like their Retaliator.
I thought it was not the Retaliator, the Gladiator, right? Or was it the Retaliator?
It's an Aegis ship, so it's going to be like the Aegis bomber. And it does, if you get into the bomber, the cockpit is very blocked, like almost like you're protected because it's a big console. And of course, in the Saber or Gladius, it's open, and because it's a smaller fighter.
Right.
When I first saw the Vanguard, it looked exactly like the Saber, and you know what I mean? It made sense because it's a fighter. But when I heard that they're making it look more like the bomber, it makes sense because it's a heavy fighter and you sit further back, and it's more like, not like a bus, but it's more like the bomber. And I'm obviously interested to see what that looks like. I think it's going to be a lot more restricted view than the Saber, but then at the same time, the new Saber looks like I'm going to lose some real estate as well because of the way that the Gladius update worked, where there's screens that are in your field of view. Now, using it as a non-mouse player, in the mouse you can move and you can see your HUDs and MFDs all the time. For me, if you were a dual joystick or HOTAS user and you didn't have track IR, you'd physically have to grab your mouse and look down to get any type of telemetry or even see your HUD or anything like that. So I know why they're trying to bring everything up. And I unmelted my Vanguard just because of the news that they updated it. And of course you can melt in the future if it turns out to suck. But I'm also hoping for a bit of a balance pass so that the Vanguard is where I think it should be, because it got nerfed into oblivion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question. Our next question is from Terrence BE, and he says, "Will we be able to EVA in the mouth of the space whale?" Well, they actually started working on the internals of the space whale, which would mean that a possibility. Once again, we don't know the scale of it, but maybe it's a possibility. Maybe you could find even better treasures inside.
Gold.
Parts of ships.
Yes,
and
Find the corpses of other travelers.
I don't remember. Maybe I guess it kind of reminds me of Pinocchio, right? When in that scene where they're in the whale and they're on like a little raft inside and there's like skeletons and stuff. It could be pretty spooky inside a space whale, right? You could have like rock formations and crash like derelict ships and stuff in there. But
Yeah,
cool
you imagine
stuff.
shooting it, blowing it apart, and this dude just flows out with like a sofa and other living amenities around it. Oh, yeah, you motherfucker.
It would be amazing. Next question
Yeah.
from Broccoli. What ships do you guys have? Do your fleets change with major game updates, like picking up a Starfarer G or Caterpillar with 2.6 when those ships become flyable? So I'll let one of you guys start with what ships do you own?
Go Detox.
I have a Super Hornet, which is my favorite ship in the entire game.
Yeah.
A Connie Andromeda, an Argo, and a Dragonfly. That's it. That's all I want. That's all I need.
Okay. I guess I'll go. I have all of the Drake ships. So I have a Caterpillar, the Pirate Edition. I have 3 Cutlass Blacks. I have a Cutlass Red. I have a Cutlass Blue. I have a Herald. I have a Buccaneer. I have 8 Dragonflies. I also have the Consolidated Outland AMD Mustang Omega. I have the Misk Razor. I have the Vanduul Blade and the Vanduul Glaive.
Are those the ships that you got for referrals?
They
or
sure are.
Those ships you physically see? Okay. Yeah. So similar. I have some of those, but the ships that I physically paid for are Carrack, Vanguard, and Sabre, if you'd believe. As a YouTuber and a content creator, that is the extent of my actual fleet. And then there's a couple $100 of loose currency, actual in-game currency that I use with CCUs and LTI tokens and stuff like that. Whatever is new and needs to be tested for a video, that, or I just go and rent it with Rec, right, to make the video.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't have such a wide thing. But
I forgot something.
What's that?
I forgot I have an X1 as well. And then my second account is a Cutlass, an X1, and an Aurora.
Right. But then there's also... You got the Cuddy Black because of the free glaive Gladius for 10 referrals.
Yeah.
That mine became a Cuddy Black. Yeah, and then as you go up to 50 and 100, then more ships like the Razor get unlocked and like the M50 and all those other ships. But I don't own those. Those are referral perks. And I don't even know
they're still counted as ships that I own, though. Are they going to be yours once the game goes live? Yes. The Razor, the Blade, and the Glaive are all... referral, not the M50 ones that you talked about. Those ones are only for Arena Commander. The Razor is a separate one. The Blade and the Glaive. The Blade is at 200 referrals, or sorry, the Blade is at 150 referrals, I think. Yeah. And the Glaive is at 200 referrals, and those are both permanent ships. I like it because that just means that I had ships that I wasn't expecting to see. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, do you guys change your fleets with new patches? Like, do you melt out ships and buy new ships? Constantly. Yeah, see, I just don't either.
Pretty boring about that.
Yeah, and I also do it too for giveaways and like the monthly giveaway and stuff like that. So while building up for the giveaway, I'll buy that ship a month in advance, let's say, and then I'll use it. So I'll make it warm for whoever the winner is. Yeah, I mean, I pick up ships for giveaways and stuff like that, but I don't consider them part of my fleet because I know I'm giving them away. I really only wanted to start with the Drake ships, and then anything I have outside of that is just the referral stuff, with the exception of the Omega, which I bought for $5 way back in the day. It's good. And you can't melt it. So, yeah, the next question is from Magnetron, and he asks, what do you guys think of the idea of having turret aiming system that uses ship's power? This way your turret consumes power while the co-pilot is managing the ship's power, so it won't reach 0, and the pilot just flying. This way you create triple gameplay mechanics.
It's a pretty good idea.
Are you saying like adding some sort of auto-aim system with?
I think it means just the turret using the power while it's being used, while somebody's in the seat. Or as they're firing, when it's firing and moving and things, do you mean?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what he means by that, because I mean you need the player in there. We know that they're not gonna not let you run the turret without a player or an AI in there.
Charged automated system.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they add more of the auto aiming features to it. That sort of help. Maybe aiming assist is a better word, right?
So you have better aim for a set time. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Right now,
that's what I said earlier.
They have aim assist for joystick users. So why wouldn't they add aim assist for the turrets?
Well, it's not really aim assist. It's like
ESP.
Well, it
like
is.
ESP.
Yes, it is. Yeah, ESP
It's
is
a
aim
magnetic
assist.
effect around the aiming mark.
Right.
It's quite
so you
loose.
you add it the same way to the turrets as you do the joystick. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's. I mean, the way I'd see it working is like a set, like the guy controlling the power can activate something that's going to give you almost like a sticky, like the pit will almost stick on the target for a little
That's
while
what ESP
and
does, is it
gimbal
not?
move. No, it doesn't. It's hard to explain. It's like it compensates for how precise you have to be with the joystick. It's
in
you
real
probably
life,
know more detail, noob.
In real life, there's lead lock, which is something that's in some older tanks, which is you would have to track the target, laze it, and then once you get to that position, the computer will take over and it will estimate what the rate of change is, and it will continue to track that thing. But if the target stops moving, then you have to compensate for it as well. So maybe a system like that, which is like an aim assist, but it's not as aimbot as what you're thinking, where it
Right, that's
knows
what I'm
the
saying,
solution.
making it the same as ESP.
Yeah, so I like the idea, but again, all this stuff has to be balanced out. It has to have action reaction.
Because if you
so
if you tie it to the pilot and somebody kills the pilot, I think that's kind of ridiculous.
Right. So right now, as far as I understand, you have, let's say, a size 3 gun, a size 2 gimbaled, and a size 1 gimbaled aim lock or aim auto fire. Right. That's the way that it's been explained how the pipes work. So every single advantage drops the size of the weapon down. So if you had a size 3 mount, you could have technically a size 1 auto gun. But then at the same time, I would almost rather put an AI in there with a size 3 gun.
Right.
So again, it really boils down to...
And if that makes sense to put an AI in there, and they're going to be a lot better than a human player.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. But, I mean, like I said, they already have aim assist in now with the joystick, right? That we can all agree on that. So for them to add that to something to make it more fun, I don't think would be unreasonable. That's all I'm saying. Our next question is from Guns and Glue. Do you think that CIG will have the avocados find cheats to test out the anti-cheat software on one of the NDA servers? If they're going to do that, they're going to do that internally with their own. I
would say that CIG would pay someone to go buy the cheats and then test them and then figure out how to defeat them.
They would do it. I think they would do it internally with their own QA.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not going to get external to do that.
No, there's no reason to do that.
There's no way they would do that.
And then the code would be out there, wouldn't it? Essentially.
Right. T-Pal says, I know it's early days, but does anyone else feel like we've seen the in-atmo flight model so far is too easy? It looks like there's no difference between flying close to a planet moon and flying out in space. Seeing it and experiencing it are two different things. So we don't know how it feels. We don't know if people are compensating for things. We don't know how turbulence works. And not only that, remember that a lot of this thing is going to change. This is just a first implementation. When have you seen a first implementation that's been put in that stays the way it is? That's
perfect. Yeah.
It's going to change so much, I expect.
Yeah.
So there's two ways to look at this. You have a super powerful ship with more than 1G's capability worth of taking off, right? Because it has to be able to fly in outer space and compensate for direction changes and that type of thing. So you're in space and the thing basically is VTOL, and then you bring it down into atmosphere. And the only difference in atmosphere is that it has to deal with the force of gravity. So you would still think that 1,000 years in the future that ship that can hover will be able to hover indefinitely. And if you release the throttle, it should come to a stop just like it does in space, because IFCS's mission in life is to get that ship to the state that the pilot's asking for. It's like fly-by-wire in an F-117 or something like that. It translates what you want and it makes it happen. So I understand there's two ways of looking at this. That there's the hardcore flight sim guys that want this to act like Microsoft Flight 10, and fly like an airplane. And then there are those of us like me that I don't care if it flies like an airplane. I would like it to fly like a spaceship that's being moved by turbulence and all the stuff that Soros was talking about. But I don't want another Flight 10. I don't want DCS. If I wanted to play DCS, I would go buy DCS and play it. So again, just like you said, this is iteration 1, and using the feedback from the community, it will change and evolve to be what it ends up being on launch. But I don't personally see, I'm not scared at this moment that I can stop a ship and do it. Now, if I can stop a ship and get out of the ship and then float next to my ship, that's bad, because I should fall like a brick at that point.
I'm just going to add on to that. Gameplay should, number one, be fun before all else.
Correct.
Especially with a project this size. If it was more niche and a lot smaller, then maybe you could go hardcore sim with it. But now, because of the size of the project, and now with the direction they're going with some of the things, yes, I agree that they're also coming up with a lot of these things. Like, you look at the complexity of the IFCS, and now we've seen with 3.0, they've showed us this. We've seen it in leaks and things like that, the startup sequences and all of that stuff. But we also have the ability to just press F5 or whatever the button is, and it just does all that for you. Right? So if you can have it for both ways, fantastic. If not, then, err on the side of the game being fun. Now, when it comes to the in-atmosphere stuff, I think it just needs to be fun. I think if you have some of the turbulence and stuff, is it going to make sense that an Aurora can just sit there floating in space in atmosphere? Maybe not, but that's how the ship works. So that's just how it's. Maybe the thrusters are future thrusters, and who knows?
And it depends. Like, if you can
some hand wavium. So
you're not using afterburner fuel. You're not using boost fuel to fly around unless you're boosting and you're using afterburner. So if that's the case, they even said it for the Nox. The Nox will hover permanently because that's just the way it's built, and it's not going to need to be refueled every night to keep the ship hovering there. And it's the same thing if you're flying along in space using normal military, like mil speeds, and you're not using the extra fuel, then the systems on your ship are recuperating the fuel necessary to sustain that. You have an indefinite, like you did it yourself, Source. You flew in your large voyage.
Yeah,
you didn't need to get refueled, and you won't need to get refueled for that scenario. No. You will if you hit quantum, because that'll burn that different type of fuel. So you could technically get up to full speed on afterburner and then decouple and then just be a rock. So it's the same thing in atmosphere, the same mechanics that don't consume those special fuels. Maybe you won't be able to decouple. Right. But if you decouple in atmosphere, you should fall like a rock.
Right? Yeah, you can't do that.
Right? Because IFCS, you're basically turning IFCS off, and IFCS is the thing that keeps you hovering in space,
that would be
in atmosphere.
A good middle ground, I think. If you
turn it off and you've dropped, then you'd have to have the scale to vertical thruster, right? You could achieve the same effect, but you'd have to always be compensating for it.
Right.
But anyways, the only reason I bring this up is that Shambles was mentioning that as you hover, it should expend your fuel, forcing you to eventually land. And I say, no, you should technically be able to hover there indefinitely, because that's the type of fuel that's being
essentially
consumed.
We're using nuclear power plants that don't run out of fuel.
Exactly. And if that makes you upset, I'm sorry, Shambles, but I don't think that what you're proposing, that you can hover for 30 seconds and then you're forced to land. And I know 30 seconds is just 5 minutes, 30 minutes. It doesn't matter how long it is. I don't think that we should want our ship to need to land after a preset amount of time.
Yeah. Our next question
doesn't make sense.
Is from Zarn TV. What is the latest word on the freelancer variants? Any ETAs?
The what?
I still don't know where we are with these.
I know. I'm just fucking with
it. I don't know. I don't. Once again, if it's not a ship that I'm personally interested in, I don't really pay attention. I don't really care about the individual ships too much. Like even the ones I'm excited about, like the Carrack or whatever, cool. I don't care about that. I care more about the gameplay stuff. That being said, I'm not saying it's not a valid question. It definitely is. We haven't heard anything, from my knowledge, on anything about the variants, like the Max, the Miz, whatever. We don't know if I don't think they're being worked on at the moment. Because they have the base freelancer in, right? And they have the other one. It's
a bit of a kick in the junk, though, right? Do you agree that it's a kick in the junk for those people that have had that ship for 5 years?
Yeah, but it's the same with all the ships.
But at the same time, they still have a ship that is very comparable to what they're going to be getting.
So what about okay, so let's put that into context. You have the 600i.
Mm-hmm.
We just found out that
is there a
thing
ship
is
that's a 615i that it's not the same. So it's like saying, okay, well, what about all the people who own a Phoenix or a Taurus or an Aquila that only have the I mean, the constellation is very similar, I guess, to all the other ones.
The point,
the Phoenix.
The point of what I was saying is, if I had a Carrack, and I have for X numbers of years, and then I found out that the 600i came out and that it's being worked on immediately.
Okay.
I guess the point is, let's have some level of triage where we're gonna not have something that's been on concept and in a hangar in various states.
You ready for this
whatever.
One? I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're ready. I have the Cutlass Black. Okay. Look at not only the state that came out in its first place, but now we're just finally getting in 3.0. Even though we've had it this entire time, I have the red and the blue.
So you're basically making the argument for me.
No, I'm saying that the red and the blue are the exact same thing, and I don't give a shit. So I don't care.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean, because the variants.
The variants. I have the variants of the colors. Yeah. I don't give a shit. Give them to me when the game's ready. I don't care. I don't care about ships.
It's
right
not
now.
important. It's not important.
There's a variant in the game that's so similar to it that it doesn't matter. Yeah, the blue's better and it has bigger stuff, and who knows if it's going to change with this update and stuff. But from what we know, it has some better weapons and some other things. Just like the Miz is has more missiles, or the Max is a little bit bigger. But essentially, the soul of the ship is the exact same thing. And so, who cares? You know,
and I guess because of saving grace, it was in the hangar, so you could at least go look at it.
Yeah. Okay. And same with the Freelancer. The Freelancer actually has two of them in, right? That has one of them at least was in the hangar. The one with the boobies on the front, and then the normal Freelancer. Yeah. So yeah, my answer.
But to answer the question, we don't know.
To answer the question, we don't know.
We don't know.
We haven't heard. It's the same thing with the 300 series. We don't know what's going on with those on the updates. We don't know what's going on with the updates with the Mustang. The Aurora has been updated. I'm trying to think of anything else. No, Banu Merchantman. What's going on with that? Who knows? Speaking of which, Sergeant Teddy Bear 59 says, "Do you think they're saving the Merchantman for a surprise reveal?"
There's a lot of hype behind it. There's a lot of people that really love that ship. I would go so far as to say there are as many people that are waiting for the BMM as are waiting for the Carrack.
Yeah, I would say the same. I don't think that it would be in CIG's best interest to do it that way.
Well, look at the Carrack. They've already announced that it's being worked on, and loads of people want that. I don't think they're going to surprise reveal it in any capacity like that.
No, and I don't think it's possible anyways, because if it was in engine, someone would have found the code for it and blabbed it all over Reddit anyways. So
yeah.
Next question's from Dursus TV. With all the bladed Vanduul ships for ramming, what are your thoughts on a bladed snub fighter? Swarms like this would be pretty cool.
Well, don't we already have that in the form of the Aurora that seems to be indestructible?
Right.
Only Test Squadron uses it that way. Yeah.
Just strap some knives to it once we get the knives in game. Just duct tape them on. Yeah, some color.
Do you think that okay, so let's go. Okay, right now in Arena Commander, it's a cheeky thing. If someone rams you, it's like fucking rammer, skillless prick, you know, like all this other stuff. So for them to make a ship that actually has that built into the mechanic, not
the glaive and the blade.
No, I know that they're there, but we don't. How effective is that? Like, if you commit to that, it should really wreck your ship. It should kill that guy.
Unless your ship's designed for it.
I know, but physics, right?
Well, if your
there's a
ship's
certain-
but if your ship's designed to impact like that, and that's what it is, and honestly,
Right.
there's only 2 ships I can think of that do that.
But then I would say that that's a game mechanic that is imbalanced. And I know that alpha, beta, balance, whatever. I'm just saying that to physically put a game asset at someone's disposal where I can run through 5, 6, 7 ships without experiencing significant damage is a little bit. That would force me. That would be the god gun, and you would have to fly that ship because everyone would go to it.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, but
Once
you're-
again,
you're
it's something they
putting
could
more-
balance out.
You're putting yourself in a lot of risk trying to ram ships in the first place. Like all they need to do is maneuver. Like they know it's coming, just maneuver out the way, and then you're already in a terrible position.
Yeah.
Really, but it's a long way off to talk about balance.
But
about
in
the
terms of
brand.
bladed snubs, I don't think they need any smaller
no
ships. I'm not saying that they're not going to. Maybe there'll be a Vandal space bike.
That
But-
can ram through something.
Who knows?
Yeah, with a
It
big
has-
knife.
Now,
in front.
that would be cool if there was like a Vandal bike that had blades on it that could run down players. That would be
Roadkill.
cool.
That is going to be
And that's
announced
something.
very soon. I
And
can
that's
already
something
see
I'm
it.
interested to see. And we haven't seen or heard from Evocati in terms of leaks or even before. Are you going to be able to run down players? Can you run over players? Can you hit them?
Not
What happens
necessary.
when that happens?
Mandatory. You must be able to.
I know. I hope so. I hope so. Commander Riker says, do you think there should be an option for turrets to target aim at the ship it is on? I think that if you had a boarding party on the hull, you should be able to target the ship's hull to attack the marauding party. Also, if you are on the boarding party, you should infiltrate the ship with priority of capturing the turrets in order to hold the ship hostage. So my answer is going to be no, and that's because the ship should be self-sufficient, right? So the ship should never, ever want to attack itself, regardless of who owns it. So it doesn't make sense. That's
Well,
why
if you look at the, if
Yeah,
you look
no-
at the
no-
Icarus, that has a turret right above the hangar, the cargo area, the hangar area.
yeah,
There's a turret right as people fly in, so
yeah.
So
that could potentially
so
shoot
for
inside
auto,
at people.
for auto, no. But if you, let's say we're boarding and you grab that turret and you could put that turret and make sure, like Detox says, that nothing leaves that thing without getting shot at. That's different than auto discriminate, which is, I think, a game mechanic. You set it and forget it. Say blow anything up that comes out of that hangar.
Oh, I
That
see.
should not be. That
No.
should not exist. But I do like
And
the
I don't
idea
think
of
that
us-
that turret should be able to shoot into the hangar. Only
No, not
for
in.
ships that are approaching it, right? But
Right.
those are separate ships. That's not its own. It's not going to cannibalize itself.
No,
That's all I'm saying. No ship should ever have the option to cannibalize itself as a safety. It's just as a safety precaution directly from the manufacturer. It doesn't make sense.
You just self-destruct
Right.
if shit gets that bad.
That's like
If-
saying should a tank be able to aim its gun at itself? Well, why would you ever
So-
want to do that?
I'm about to wreck this for you in the Lav, which is an armored vehicle. You can, so it has a deck limit to stop the gun from bouncing off the driver's head.
Yeah.
Right. If the driver's hatch is open, it sets a bubble where that gun can no longer go. But the crew commander can hit battle override and then basically drive that gun
Drive it
right
into
into the
it.
deck. Yeah, it's because there are instances where you need that extra 2 degrees to get
Right.
view, but again,
It can
the
go
crew
further
commander,
than that. Is the thing.
right?
Yeah.
You could set it to break itself in that instance. So I don't think that it's completely unbelievable to
Yeah.
be a game mechanic, but I think that level of being able to aim into a like you say, cannibalize your own ship with a turret. Let's not put that in the game. That opens up
Yeah.
an easy win as far as I'm concerned, because then everyone would go and either defend or capture the turret because they knew that turret could blow up the whole ship. Right?
Yeah.
It just ruins the whole point of boarding at that point.
Yeah, you want it to be like an FPS match and
Right.
stuff at that point. Our next question is from Carlos R72, and he says, first of all, I like the show. Thank you. I don't want to steal myself game content. I have the Aurora MR package. I wondered for a while how I progress in game. Do I develop my ship by buying higher quality parts to go from an MR to a CL or an LX like version of the ship to have more fun with the ship? In short, how do you think the game progression will look like? I think it's going to look different for every different players. It really depends on what the goal is for you. If your end goal is to own a certain ship or something, then that's what you're going to aim for. If your goal is to become a certain rank in your org, or become a certain skill level in say Star Marine or Arena Commander, or to be the best hauler in the world, or the best explorer. Those things are going to have different goals. So in terms of overall game progression, I think it's going to be an individualized basis. In terms of ship progression, I don't think that you're going to be swapping out an MR to CL or an LX. I think you would upgrade your MR maybe, or maybe you would just skip to another ship entirely. So unless you really, really like Auroras and you want to collect them all or whatever, I can't see it making a lot of sense unless you only have a little bit of money and the pros outweigh the cons and you can switch right away. Things like that.
A little bit.
But I think the big steps are, okay, I'm going to go from the Aurora to the Gladius, and then instead of going to an Avenger or something, I'm going to upgrade the Gladius as much as I can. And maybe I like it there and I just stay there for a single seater. But then maybe I want to do something more like a Buccaneer or a Super Hornet or a Saber. I work towards that later on. Or maybe I want to go towards hauling and I can work towards something that focuses on that. And you don't even necessarily have to get rid of those ships that you have. You can own those ships as well. Or you could sell them and then get those things. The game isn't going to work how the CCUs and stuff do now in the store, where you're going to be able to like, oh, I'm going to get these parts and it's going to turn my Aurora into a Super Hornet. You would have to sell your Aurora and use those funds to buy a Super Hornet, or you would have to earn enough money so you could just outright buy one of those ships.
Yeah, and as Brock Kelly just said, I don't see you're going to be in that ship for very long anyways. No. Because a long time ago, they were saying after 60 hours of gameplay, you could technically, if you were grinding well and you're efficient, you could get yourself into something the size of a Connie. Now, that was so long ago, we have no idea.
Subject to change. Who knows? I hope ships are grindy. I hope it takes a while.
They should be,
because
I don't want the end state of owning every single ship in the game after only 2 days of playing.
After 6 months, I don't want to own all the ships in the game. After a year, I don't want to own all the ships in the game.
Right, and there's some that should be almost unattainable.
Yeah.
Right. Those crazy goals in game. But so I agree with you though. An MR to a CL to an LN I don't see that as being something that you would do, because you're effectively getting the same ship over and over again. But I can see an MR grind going to get a Titan, then grind going to get a Cuddy Black, and then you're a freelancer and working up yourself up to maybe like a Hull B, Hull C, and then it fully depends on how many friends you have, right? How much crew you have, and like what types of areas you're going to be in. Because I think a Hull A, Hull B would be devastating to try to put into a target-rich environment, whereas maybe going back and forth in a green zone, Hull A may be exactly what you want because you don't need all the guns that are on the freelancer, and it offers better cargo. So to reinforce what you said, Source, it completely depends on what your individual game objectives are, right? So it's kind of a difficult question to answer, but hopefully we put it into some kind of perspective.
Right. So maybe you find that you enjoy hauling. So, an Aurora is an all-around ship, right? And that's what a lot of the starter ships and the lower end ships are. They're kind of an all-around thing. So maybe you want to go more specialized. And then, or maybe you decide you want to do combat instead, or you want to do scouting or exploration or whatever. Each one of those will be your sort of your own path, but how you'll do that is like I said, you'll have to buy those ships and or trade up to them or do whatever. Next question's from Magnetic62. He says, do you think CIG should develop some sort of mini game for ground vehicles like Arena Commander? Well, we know we're going to have ground racing, so that's already in 3.0, so that is going to be a thing. So that's kind of like a mini game. I would like to see a combined arms game mode in Star Marine. I would also, and I don't expect this to come in before the game comes out or before modding comes in, but I really would like to see a Battle Royale style mode on a planet. We've talked about this before. Vehicles would be useful in that, right? You could have a whole planet where it's say 300 players or something, and then you could scatter some armor and weapons and vehicles.
Are you saying PUBG?
Yeah, that's what Battle Royale is.
You're saying you want PUBG?
So you could have,
exactly
you could
what
have
he's
that.
saying.
But this is what he's asking. So yeah, I mean, they could. I don't know outside of that what else there could really be. I'm sure there's other sort of combined arms things.
Like a little Halo kind of capture the flag kind of thing. With
I can see people playing that exclusively and not ever going into the PU.
There's going to be people, and you want that. There's going to be people that are going to be exclusively playing a Star Marine. There's going to be people. I don't think it'll be as popular, but I think there's going to be people that are exclusively playing Arena Commander, and not Star Citizen itself at all. Some people in WoW only play PvP. They don't actually play the actual game itself, because that's all they care about. Our next question. That's
cool too.
It is very cool, and it just brings in more people. It allows for more gameplay options, so why not? Dr. Kessler 1 says, will the UEE Navy, law enforcement, etc., just be NPCs, or will players be able to enlist, so to speak? So they've said on this before, no, you will not be able to join the UEE after Squadron 42, or you will not become an actual law enforcement. They are going to limit that to AI.
Because that opens up the possibility for you to troll people as a cop. Yeah. Right?
No.
So then...
But you could start your own org, which plays as that kind of...
As bounty like good guy bounty hunters.
Like Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yes. Well, and our last question is from Cooney. He says, does the flight model in 3.0 differ significantly from 2.6? Don't know. We don't have 3.0. Also, what are your thoughts on Star Citizen trying to balance having an interactive mode with mouse keyboard with players using joysticks? I personally would rather see Star Citizen require either a joystick or at least an inexpensive gamepad. I 100% disagree with you there.
Can't do it.
Impossible.
It's already been years.
No, it's already been too late. Number one. Number two, there's no way you're going to ever create a game that's going to be even remotely popular if you don't allow keyboard and mouse. Number three, if anything, you should not allow joysticks over not allowing keyboard and mouse. Right, but I think that having control, I've
triggered.
Yeah, you be triggered. I think that having it the way that it is about as good as it's gonna get. To be completely honest, he goes on to say, "I realize this has been spoken about quite a bit, but pacing still seems to be something that is ignored by CIG, while they seem stuck in a rat race of trying to balance the two." Well, they've given you a lot of options. They allow you to bind all of your keys. They allow you to change all your curves, customizing, and like all kinds of crazy stuff. So
I would like to say something. For those of you that think that one is more powerful than the other, fucking play with that one. If you think it's that much of an advantage, then
play
adopt
with the
it.
advantage.
Get good at it. So I fly dual stick because it's an advantage for me. It's how I would like to play. There are some people who fly dual stick who complain all the time. They're like, "Oh, fucking gimbaled mouse and keyboard pilots are, obviously outperforming me." And I'm like, then go grab a keyboard. Honestly, if you feel
have
that
one,
you're being,
they have one. That's
exactly.
the thing too.
If you feel that you're at such a disadvantage, then go get it, because I don't want to hear complaining about it. Now, do I think it's balanced? I think that we are well past the keyboard versus joystick wars. Ever since that they did that balance pass on the weapon strength, gimbaled size 1, fixed size 2, that, like Sora says, 100% agree, we're about as close as we're ever going to be. And because you have so much, this is like the only game I've ever seen that you have 4 possible USB inputs plus keyboard plus mouse. I could have 4 joysticks in front of me, paddles, whatever I wanted to, plus a gamepad, plus this, plus track IR, plus all the other things. This isn't a console game where everyone has exactly the same controller. Right. This is a PC game, and that's part of being a PC player. And
some people will be playing in VR, some people won't. Some people will use track IR, some won't.
If you think you're at a disadvantage, then go whatever you think is the advantage. Then go emulate it. And that's the beauty of this game. I like dual stick, and I'm not proposing that everyone needs to go play that way. There are keyboard players. Sorry for going off on a rant, but basically, I've spent since 2013 hearing about this whole back and forth thing, and I actually don't think that exists anymore. The way that people think, and if it is a thing and you feel strongly about it, then go pursue your perfect controller, like I have, like everyone has or should.
And there's people at the top in every controller. Like there's people at the top who are insanely good with joysticks, people insanely good with mouse and keyboard, people who just use track IR to fire their weapons.
And it's all skill based. There's no god gun. There's no magical one controller that does it all. Because if you go look at the leaderboard, it's very scattered, like you say. And keyboard and mouse isn't necessarily. There are very scary pilots that play keyboard and mouse, and they are not common. The majority are joystick, dual joystick, and that is kind of agreed upon that the most competitive players are playing there, but they're not exclusively that. So that in itself should give you the comfort knowing that the balance is quite not what people think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, that is our last question, and we're going to leave it on that. Nubifier, where can people find you, and what are you up to this week?
So I'd like to first say thank you for having me. It's always fun to be on the podcast. So I'm Star Citizen YouTuber. You can find me at the Nubifier 1337 on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, all of those regular social medias. If you have any questions for me, ask it in any of my videos. I will try my best to answer it there and try instantly. Look for in the near future. I started a new series on LTI, how to use the systems that we have, how we can maybe fix the CCU system. The $0 CCUs was the video from last night. The next one is going to be about LTI, what the future of LTI is, and then the future of the store. So there's a series of 4 videos that are coming out that are progressively going to become more and more polarizing and salty. So stay tuned for that. And please, I need your opinions in that.
There you go.
You know, thank you.
Yep. Detox and yourself.
You can find me at twitch.tv /detox_TV. I'm a Star Citizen streamer and variety broadcaster with a sci-fi and fantasy focus. We play a lot of Warhammer games as well. So if you like Warhammer, come on by. We're playing Total War Warhammer 2 at the moment. And that's it, man. Come on by and say hello.
Well, there you go. And you can find me at twitch.tv /WTFosaurus, aka here, or on Twitter at WTFosaurus. I want to say thank you, both of you, for joining me for this week for the podcast. And
thank you very much for having us.
I will see you guys later. Thanks, everybody, for coming by. Appreciate you. And hopefully Evocati goes quickly and we can get Twerk and Board back on here. Love you guys. Take care.
Cheers.